Schulte, here. Jones, here. Moore, here. First item would be to consider today's agenda. It was published and posted prior to 8:45 yesterday morning without the 11:15 item. We received an email, I believe we all received an email from DMT, or forget Sandy's title, sorry, the director. Identifying a couple concerns and some interest in taking the course and a request that I asked Michelle to include it for an 11:15 item because that was beyond 24 hours when it was added to the agenda, but it was not 24 hours prior to the start of the meeting time. You guys want the agenda approved with that item or?
Approve the agenda.
Second, now posted. Okay. DeBoer makes a motion. Mike Schulte offers support. The agenda as it currently is shown. It's presented here. It was posted after that was added. Correct? Any further discussion concerning today's agenda? All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Consider the minutes from the last meeting.
She saw something I didn't, I'll make a motion to approve them. Second.
Discussion concerning minutes from April 9. All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Consideration of our May schedule. Anything other than that of interest? Your regular meeting dates, is there interest in setting our motion to set our meeting dates in May for May 14 and 28?
Make that motion.
Motion by the board for the 14th and 28th.
Second.
Jones, any further discussion on the May schedule? All those in favor signify with aye. All those opposed, same sign. Item we could look at is this minor piece of information there. I do not remember what it is. Their fee is associated with that.
You give up $9,294 back. Yeah, it's like four something. 3,500 or something.
Never cost us more than they found for us. Morning.
Morning.
It's about 33% of the total claims we reimburse.
So it's just 7,000 something over there.
For reimbursement, you get $9,294 now.
I take it that's what we'd be eligible for. We'll be about 35.
Back.
Interest to continue our utilization cost of election services.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Schulte? Jones? Any further discussion about approval of opposed, using cost advisory services. Discussion, all those in favor, signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Next, we look at considering the budget amendment, public hearing dates.
I think the 28th is worth it.
Most pressing on that issue.
They're gonna roll stuff to the budget, line items, and you might have to do journal again, maybe. Check some costs and journal, and I'll talk to these again.
Budget and minimal transfers.
Yeah, yeah.
What time did you think on the 28th?
About 9:30.
Over?
Motion from the board to set a public hearing date of May 28th at 9:30 for budget amendment. Support. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Back to the resolutions concerning TIF fund, urban renewal fund transfers. Order that auditor's office has numbered them, we will consider resolution 35. Transfer from the Cenex fund to the secondary road fund.
Make a motion to approve resolution 35.
Motion by Jones. Support from the board. Any discussion or comments concerning resolution 35? I'll ask Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bohr?
Aye.
Mr. Schulte?
Aye.
Mr. Helmers? Aye. And I vote aye. Resolution number 36 would be within the ethanol area. Would be to the ethanol principal and interest fund.
Make a motion for 36, 18, 19. Support.
Schulte, support from Mr. Helmers. Discussion, comments? Moving us towards that early payoff. Mr. Schulte, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Helmers? Aye. Mr. Bohr? Aye. Mr. Jones? Aye. Aye. Next one would be on the amended ethanol area concerning the Bosma rebate.
motion for DDA.
Jones, motion, support. Jones is on for support, further discussion? Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Helmer? Aye. Mr. Moore? Aye. Mr. Schulte?
Aye.
I vote aye. Last of this kind today, resolution 39, addressing amended FLTIP and JRJ.
Motion for 3918.
Mr. Moore? Support. Mr. Schulte, further comments or discussion? Mr. DeBoer, how do you vote? Mr. Schulte, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Jones, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Helmers?
Abstain.
I will also abstain.
No. Pass. Oh, sure.
Without my vote, I said.
Hey, Rochelle, how much is left on that secondary roads or repairs?
Quite a bit, I'm not for sure offhand, I can go check one for you. $189,360 left.
So not that much.
No, I think next year's last year we take home off, their taxes, and then after that, they'll be getting more.
So then we will reimburse secondary roads for all that, right?
Yep, and the city of Sibley also. Then within the 10 years, it'll go quicker.
You have 9 o'clock. Iowa Land Records presentation as our item. Come up to the booth. Here. Thank you. Jason.
Jason, very nice to meet you. Could you guys go around the table and just say hi? Okay, very good.
Jerry Helmers.
Ben Jones.
I heard of you.
Yeah, I met you.
Mike Schulte.
Okay, very good.
Never shall.
Okay, I had to admit that I was kind of getting self-conscious sitting over there because you kept looking above me and I didn't.
Oh, I put the calendar. Sorry.
Just not used to the room. I
Your name again was Bill
My name is Phil Dunphy, and I am the project manager for the Land Record System. I think to simplify it, you can just say that I work for the County Reporters Association. I'm kind of a tech guy, but also a policy guy. And I'm not going to go through the whole handout. And if you ask me to, it would be very dangerous because I can give like 5 hours left. So, but I'm not going to do that for you today. So, the short version of it is I'm here, first of all, because of opportunity, because I'm giving a seminar in Sioux City tomorrow, and I had an opportunity to communicate with them about land records and what was going on, and so I said to him, you know, I'm going to be up in your neighborhood, why don't I just stop by? So I came a half a day early to come and visit with you all. And I guess I want to start by saying thank you to the Board of Supervisors, because Iowa Land Records is a part of the 28E organization. It's known as, or officially as, the Electronic Services System. It was actually established in 2005 under the direction of the Iowa General Assembly. It's probably one of the few, if maybe not the only, 28E organization in Iowa that was mandated by the legislatures. It's very unusual, but it happened that way. So the recorders and the ISAC were directed to create a 28E organization. And the purpose of that was to make sure that everything that was done within the organization was transparent and public and follow all the rules, the same rules that you guys have to follow as elected officials. So we go through the same type of routine, not the same formality that you have, but a lot of the same structure that you used to. We have two primary things that we do. One is to provide public access to land records that are recorded in offices all across the state. So all 99 counties participate in it, and we consolidate that information into a single database, and then we make it available to people online. We're mandated by the General Assembly to provide it at no cost. So as far as the consumer, there's no fee or anything like that. As you can see in the annual report, we have more than 19 million records statewide posted. Compared to California or some other states, that's not a whole lot, but for Iowa, it's a pretty good chunk of records. The other thing we do is facilitate electronic recording, or e-filing. And what that means is that a abstractor or real estate attorney or bank or mortgage company, instead of delivering paper documents to the courthouse, they can scan them and submit them online. And it provides them with a great opportunity to be much more efficient and cost-effective. The reason for that is in the vast majority of the counties, if a document is electronically filed, it's usually recorded within 2 to 3 hours, sometimes less than that. It doesn't happen quite that quickly in the high volume, high population counties because they just have so much going through. But for most of the counties, the recorders do a great job of that. So one of the questions that was presented to me is sort of how do we stack up in Osceola County against everybody else? I want to thank Deb for inviting me up here as well. And so I have some data to share with you. So the first thing I'm going to share, and again, this is a lot to look at, but maybe you can share them on the two sides of the table, and I'll explain what this is. The important thing to understand about this chart in blue, which I'm talking about right now, so you guys might want to flip it over for a second. Of this side of the sheet, this represents the percentages of records that have been transferred from the county to our centralized database, okay, and our image repository. And we have a definition of a record that we call complete, and complete record means that we have both the document image and we also have the index information in the recorder's database. We really started gathering and accumulating records in 2004. A lot of counties were digitizing back at that time. So really, most of the records that we have start in the year 2000, because some counties did back scanning projects, and then we carry forward to the current date. What's the big picture of this chart? Because it's fine print and it's hard to read, and I'm not asking you to read it, although you can get your magnifying glass out there, you can see Osceola County is listed there. But what the dark blue and the light blue on the far right really means that the counties as a group, including Osceola County, have transferred the records that they have in digital format to Iowa Land Records. And as you go back in time, and the chart goes all the way back to 1975, you can see that because many counties didn't digitize at that time, that there are some blanks in information. That doesn't mean that they withheld the data, it just means that it doesn't exist in digital format right now, in most cases. And so, if you were to look at Osceola County across the board, I would say that we've got a pretty good track record here of delivering the records and completing the database. Another way we measure that is that back in 2006, we had a discussion with the County Recorders Association about setting some standards for how soon the records could be transferred, because people that are abstractors or others that want to see the information as timely as possible, especially if they're looking for it online. So at that time, what we advocated was establishing a standard of 72 hours or 3 business days to transfer the records from the time of recording until it's complete and in our system. In our system does not necessarily mean that it's public, because we are also mandated by law to process every single document for personally identifiable information. And if it's found, we have to redact it permanently from the record that we display online. So think of it as 2 steps. First step is transferring the records from the county to the central database, and the second step is making it public after it has been through the redaction process. You put all that together and throw in weekends, it can sometimes take about 5 days to get all of that done, and that's just the reality of the process that we have. I would say that the vast majority of counties are within that 72-hour limit. I'm not going to say that everybody's perfect on that across the state, but generally there's a good bit of effort being made by the recorders to do that, and it is, as you can see, generally we end up at a complete state.
How did you come up with the 72-hour window? How did they determine that that was the right amount of time to do it?
Well, I think generally speaking, we were looking at, the recorders that were on the committee looking at that said, okay, how much time does it typically take in our office in order for a record to become complete? It's not uncommon in recorders' offices where they will take the record in and then they will index it and basically officially record it. But the scanning might not take place until the next day. And then you take into account just life and reasonableness, and that's where the 70 hours. So, I'm not going to say there's any magic to that or some special metric that we looked at, but I think it was a combination of what's reasonably timely based on our business practices at that time, and then just taking into account a little bit of life happens. So the other side of the screen, this represents the records that are complete and public online. And so you've got a mix of light green and dark green. And the light green, if you look at the legend, I'm looking at this right at the top, I have it upside down, I didn't know. But if you look at the legend on the far right-hand side, at the very top, the light green basically means it's 100% complete. And the darker green, I think, means between, it means greater than 99%, but there are a few missing. And then the darker green still means between 90 and 99%. So, I guess the way I would want to characterize it, and this isn't just Osceola County, but every county kind of is in in a situation when they're transferring records, but for one reason or another, maybe a single record doesn't get transferred completely, or something else happens. Most of the time, we find out about it because a customer is calling and saying, hey, where is that record? Because I need it. Oftentimes, abstractors will call us, with that kind of information. So, we work with the individual and the groups of recorders by their districts to promote timely processing of documents, both in terms of the transfer as well as in the submission process. Now, the second piece of data I want to share with you is data, this is statewide data. It's easier to read. So, but what this represents is what we call an e-submission ratio table. The Iowa County recorders and our system are very much interested in promoting more electronic filing because of the efficiency that it brings and the benefits that it provides, both for the recorders' offices and the consumers. Every county is a little bit different in their situation. I would say, if you were to kind of paint with a broad brush, the larger urban counties have a higher percentage of electronic filing. They also have a higher volume of transactions. People are used to doing business electronically in the capital and some of our other bigger cities. Business practices in counties throughout Iowa are not always like that. When I came here, I got here early enough yesterday to be able to sort of drive around town, just get familiar with myself. And so you've got a bank or two right down the street, and some law offices that are not that far away. And generally speaking, the reality is that many of them like to go to the courthouse and deliver their stuff in person. It's just the way they do business. I think they all like you so much they want to come and have coffee with you is what the deal is. And unlike the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, I can't mandate. We can't mandate that everybody do that. Because we have to persuade them that it's a good time. That is a good idea. On a statewide basis, our ratio of electronically filed documents to the number of documents that are recorded one way or another is 41%. And we started this back in 2006, and we've grown it from nothing up to 41%. And I anticipate that we're going to be in that 44%, 45% range when we get to the end of this calendar year. Our goal as an organization is to reach 50-50 by 2020. That's kind of our phrase right now. So we're going for that. The counties that are highlighted in green are the counties that are in the Recorders Association District 3, so you kind of get an idea geographically. And they're not all the same. So, for example, I'm going to just single out Ida County. Why does Ida County have such a huge percentage? Well, it's because they have a wind farm thing going on there right now. So there's a lot of records that are being filed or that were being filed in 2018. I would say that's sort of an outlier. The rest are in that 20 to 30% range. And there's no right answer. I'm not here to say that, any percentage is too low. Generally, what we would like to see each county strive for is to be at the state average if you can. And that's, for some counties, that's a stretch goal. So I don't want you to overinterpret this. It's just that's where we're at. And we have a statewide perspective, and then we try to work with counties on an individual basis to identify potential needs, and we have a team that, identifies people with organizations that should be electronically filing, and then we work with them to do outreach and promote it. And so, for example, the reason I'm in Sioux City tomorrow is because I am there to promote e-submission, and I'm training people on how to electronically file and show them the benefits. This year, I'm kind of doing major population centers in Iowa, but in past years, I have been to every county. In fact, one year, I pretty much did the full Grassley, if you know what I mean. So it just depends on the circumstance, but really, we're very happy with the progress that we've made overall, but as a statewide system, we still have a ways to go in achieving our goals. So this is the data. The way to interpret this of the documents recorded were electronically filed. And that's 2017, I mean, last year in calendar 2018, that jumped up to 24.5%. So there is progress being made, and we're gonna continue to work on that. So, I'm gonna be, mostly available to answer your questions, but a couple of key points. One is, thank you for, whoever was on the board in 2005 for saying, yes, who would like to participate in the system. You're part of a system that is first in the nation. No other state has established a statewide electronic filing or land records management or public access system the way we have. Most of what you find in the rest of the country are proprietary for-profit systems that charge fees for access to the records, and they're driven by profit. And you're not driven by that motive. We're driven by trying to provide a good public service to the people of Iowa and to the real estate industry. When we started electronic filing back in 2006, we signed up all 99 counties at that time. So just imagine, 99 of Iowa counties were electronic filing. That year, nationally, there were only 200 recorded jurisdictions in the country able to electronically file. So when we started, we were represented over half or almost half of all of the recording jurisdictions that had that capability. So your recorders collectively, they have been technology leaders, and we're really proud of the work that they've done. It was not an easy thing to bring 99 recorders together and get them all on the same page. I'm sure you can appreciate that. But they did, and we're still working on that. That's an ongoing process. So I'm going to thank you for inviting me to be here today. And again, I could go on and on, but I'm not going to do that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Is this expected to go all the way back to 1975? Is that kind of a benchmark?
It's not. It's just that arbitrarily shows 75. So the 75 column actually represents any records that existed pre-75 also. But there were so few records back at that time that are digitized that just seemed to be the starting point. Eventually, the print's going to get too small, I'm going to have to consolidate this chart some way, but 75 is the benchmark that we use as sort of the beginning point of the digital era.
My question was 72 hours. Is that too fast? Because I know I've bought some property where we found mistakes. Are they making mistakes by getting it recorded that fast?
Well, first of all, each county has a little bit of latitude because we don't count weekends in that. So if something happens on a Friday, you don't have to, do it by Monday morning. I would say no. I don't think it's too fast. If you're in the real estate industry, I don't know if you are not, but, kind of the attorneys sort of beat it in my head. But we're a race notice state, so getting stuff filed timely does matter in terms of protecting your property rights, okay? Because somebody could come in ahead of you, fraudulent person, and so getting things done the first time really is important. We have a fairly easy system of filing corrections, okay? So if there is a mistake, usually the process is, re-report another document. The other thing with electronic filing is, we see this all the time. Somebody presses the send button, document gets to the county recorder's office, and they have that V8 moment and say, oh, I made a mistake, they hit their head. Well, if they're on top of their game, they can pick up the phone and call the county recorder's office and say, I made a mistake, could you decline that document? There have been, I don't get this conversation very much anymore, but it used to be that there was a dynamic between the auditor's offices sometimes and the recorder's I've observed it elsewhere where there was a business practice to say a conveyance document comes in, and then the auditor's office wants to do it to make sure the flat is right, whatever it is they do. And so it goes to the auditor's office, and it can wait for 30 days in some counties. We've seen that happen. That is too long. That is way too long. So, our posture has been, get it recorded, and if there's a mistake, it's pretty easy fix, okay? Just
I
about
ended up paying for it, and I didn't like that.
well, I understand that, but you should have been more careful the first time, right? So, it just is the way it is. I would say, I haven't had an opportunity to work at the national level. In fact, I've been the co-chair of a national group that is working on the subject of reducing the proportion of documents that get rejected because of errors. And there are customers of recorders and there are recorders that basically fall into two camps. On one side, you have some recorders and their customers who say, hey, if you find an error, be sure to let me know, and, I'll come back and fix it. There's another group of, and the recorders would generally say, hey, I'm providing great customer service, I'm gonna do that. There's a whole other group of recorders and customers who say, I don't care if there's a mistake. I need to be first in line, it's a file, I'll fix it later. And the recorders on that side of the fence say, I'm too busy to be your quality control department, okay? You have to take responsibility for doing stuff right. So I would say there's a broad lack of consensus in the country, in the U.S., among recorded jurisdictions and their customers about what the right balance of that is. In promoting best practices for reducing document rejections, on the one hand, we are encouraging submitters or preparers of documents just to be more attentive to the documents that they're preparing. Some of the larger document processing houses, they're turning through hundreds and thousands of documents every day, and mistakes get made. You just have to build in some quality control into those systems, otherwise there will be delays. So being more attentive on the submitter side, paying attention to quality, and then on the recorder side, encouraging recorders to help educate and communicate to the submitters what the recording requirements are, what the document formatting standards are, and to be a kind of a servant in terms of, helping set the conditions for success. But if somebody makes a mistake, they just make a mistake, and, they may have to do it. You would be amazed nationally about how many documents are submitted to the wrong county for recording. It's approaching 10% nationally as one of the main reasons why documents get rejected. So I know for a fact there's a Polk County, Florida, and a preparer sends it to Polk County, Iowa. How does that happen? It's just because of lack of control. So I wanted to say to you that one of our purposes in our office is to work with submitters to help them be better preparers, and also to work with reporters to help them be more consistent in delivering customer service. And I'm very proud of the reporters that we work with in Iowa, and county officials in general. I like to think that everything that we do positively reflects positively on county government. That's what we're trying to do. Technology can be used in the right way and the wrong way, and the right way to use it is to facilitate collaboration and mutual benefit, and that's what I'm all about. That's what keeps me excited about being a part of this project. So this may not be the end of your conversation about this, but on the other hand, I think you're in pretty good overall compared to the rest of the counties in the state. You're kind of right in the middle of the wheelhouse, and that's okay. And we'll just keep working to get better. And Ed, you can bring me, I'll see you at an ISAC conference, and any of you want to see me there or kind of beat me up a little bit or anything, I'm available. I used to work way back in the day. I worked with Governor Branstad, and I've had governors from other states yell at me. Okay, so I can take it, whatever you got. So Thanks for your time.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
It's what, I don't know how much of a difference.
It's your, I didn't bring coffee.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you for
Thank you for your time. Very good meeting, actually. Thank you very much, sure. Very good to meet you.
Nice to
I'm
meet you.
curious if you were in Des Moines, give me a call, okay?
I traveled down that way.
Thank you.
I'll stop there.
All right, you know how to. I'm very interested in you too. I hope maybe we have a chance to do this later.
Yeah, they got those, and it was kind of quick when you too. So, there's a lot of people that never know water in their basement, they're like, no.
Yes.
I've got two kids that have never had water before, they're both high school kids.
Yeah, I haven't done a side-by-side comparison.
Neither one of them got some awful.
I never had a 30-star, we don't. How many times you get used to it?
Oh, yeah.
But I was like, in the contract, it also says that it takes.
It's got to be high, because the guy that does chores, he says, right where I was in our south barn, he says, you got it.
So, we looked at it real briefly and,
So I had a guy, Sparkswell out there yesterday. He says, no, he didn't have to leave. He thinks it's just coming from the road.
yeah.
So you ever get in trouble water? Yeah, I know. I'll get it to him.
Takes a lot. Yeah, they have the employer. Yeah, so we haven't done this side.
Surprised me, I put all the water, saying, I had to walk before this last term. And I must have been dumping a lot of water in there.
Well, that can make a big difference.
Because boy, it's not near where,
Man, it's good.
it's not near where it was.
It's good, I mean.
Because before, I know.
Some of them
Can't be right up there. I think it's got quality building there.
We've got 9:30. We have to consider, or allow some time for seasons to address us and, consider potentially allocating Compass Point funding to seasons.
Well, thank you. Thanks for giving us some time on the agenda. We appreciate that. My name is Dan Reese. I'm the VP of Finance and HR at Seasons. I've been there since 2010, so coming up on almost 9 years. I know a few of you that have been on our board, so basically I'm here today just to try to give you an update on where things are with Compass Point closing and what Seasons is trying to do to fill that void. We found out about Compass Point about the same time everybody else kind of did. It was kind of a sudden thing. We've been working to expand some substance abuse hours into the evenings and weekends to try to accommodate people that are needing to get into services. We've been providing substance abuse services for the last 7 years. not new to us, we've been doing it for quite a while. And so, we've had staff that have agreed to basically work expanded hours to try to get people into services, while we look to hire additional staff. Things are kind of fluid right now in trying to determine how many clients we're served at Compass Point and to know how much of that we're going to need to take. We've got, the number around 700 clients has been thrown out there. We don't know the details of that, how many of those were substance abuse versus their domestic abuse program versus just people that attended DUI classes or attended prevention events and things like that. So we don't have, concrete numbers. We've been trying to work with the MCOs to get data, and they don't have concrete numbers as well. Compass Point had a block grant through Iowa Department of Public Health, where they served some people, and so we're not sure if the majority were served underneath that. So we're still trying to gather information. When people are calling the seasons, we're getting all the information just like we would for anybody else, and then we essentially say those priority or those expanded hours off for people that were getting services at Compass Point so that they can get services this season. At seasons we provide, substance abuse, so we also provide outpatient therapy, outpatient psychiatry services, psychological testing, a bunch of different community-based services that we provide. And so we have a whole bunch of services that people can basically have access to. And sometimes, most of the time with substance abuse, it's not just substance abuse, there's mental health involved as well. And a lot of times you can't tell which one came first, the mental health or the substance abuse. They have a mental health issue and they're using substances to cope with that, or are the substances causing that appear to have a mental health issue. And so we have providers who are what's called co-occurring, so they've had training in both substance abuse and mental health. And we work towards trying to get that for all of our providers. Some providers may start out just doing substance abuse, and then they work towards getting their mental health, or we've had it the other way where they've had their mental health and then are getting certification for substance abuse. And so we have about 125 employees right now. That number will go up with camp this summer to about 150. And we're spread out in really the same 9 counties that Compass Point was in, so we already have offices there for services. And so that's what we're doing. We're working with the state to look at what options there are for any of the contracts that Compass Point may have had, to see if that's something that we'd be able to do. And so we're working with them to see what the options are. They have to look at what their legal options are, because it sounds like this is the first time an agency has closed where they had the substance use block grant. And so that's big one. I don't know how much they had for the year, but it was a big chunk of their budget. And so that's something that the state is still trying to work through to see what their options are, and we've been in communication with them during this time. So we had a season's board meeting through a conference call, I think 1 week after the Compass Point closing came out, and our board was in consensus that they wanted to go back to their boards and ask them to consider the money that was going to Compass Point to switch that to seasons. And it indicated that it was already in next year's budget, and so it would be new money, it would just be a reallocation. So I wanted to come today, and we've been going to all the different county supervisor meetings over this last week and over the next couple of weeks to make sure if there's any questions you guys have, we can answer those. I'll do my best to answer those, and just make sure that, we're trying to be as transparent as we can about what we're trying to do to help with the situation. We know that, everybody's going to have to kind of pitch in and figure out how to serve the problem. So, really, any questions that anybody has, or any information that anybody wants to know that I can try to answer today?
I think should seasons provide the services or similar services to what Compass Point is doing, I see it as being reasonable. I don't know at this point if I'm ready to say, well, they should get the funding because they might do it.
It's understandable.
They would want to see a little better plan, I guess.
Yeah, it's only been a few weeks
Yeah,
since this all happened, and so everyone's still trying to figure out and digest.
maybe my memory's not too good, but the board has restructured. Isn't that the one that you?
They're in the process.
In the process of restructuring, that's one that you won't be sitting on anymore, correct?
Probably
I do have concerns with the county having less involvement and, yeah, just even being at board meetings, I question how much we should continue to maintain that relationship when we're being removed from.
And that's understandable, I mean, every county that sits on our board, they have money they put into a region. We have people that go to region meetings monthly, and I know you guys have representatives. So information will still come back that way. Part of us restructuring, there's a couple of things, but, one of them is with some of the grants we've received, we have to have certain people on the board that represent certain different demographics. And so, we're looking at a board that's going to have, representatives that, maybe it's somebody who's had mental health services or a family member who's had mental health services, representation from the different, ethnic backgrounds or, maybe sexual orientation backgrounds, things like that. There's a whole list of different areas that we have to have representation on. And the board, being kind of our supervisors, obviously there's limitations of what areas those things fall into. And so part of this is requirements that we have to do to meet grant requirements and things like that. We're still planning to provide information to two of the counties that we're in as far as services we're providing and things like that. We still look to do that. We still can have people come to this meeting, and really it's, we've asked our board members to make recommendations for new board members that may be from the community. So we want to be representative by location as well. So if we're in, 7 counties, we want to have representation from those counties. And so, I had the question come up at another board meeting, and they said, well, if they had somebody from their county who, was on our board, could that person come to their board meeting? And I said, I don't see any reason why not. And so there's different ways of, looking at it and what options can be done, and our board will have discussions and things like that, because obviously this is a new development. We have our next meeting on May 10th, and so these will be things that won't be talked about with the board. But at this point, the board has voted and amended and changed the bylaws for the board structure and things like that. And then anybody that comes in the new board has to first be approved by our current board, and so they have that approval for that.
So any of the counties have representation, or just as a region, or just no supervisors at all?
There may still be a couple of supervisors that are on the board. Part of it is for consistency of they may have been on the board for a long time, so they know the history of seasons and know what we've gone through. But primarily it'll be kind of a mix of an advisory board that has existed, potentially some current members, and then there'll be some new members. And so the advisory board, part of their function is to help raise funds and things like that, but then they have no kind of say in how those funds are really used or programming. And so the new board would kind of have 3 different categories. There'd be one that would have committees that focus on finance and HR issues. There's one that would focus on the programming, so to make sure that we're providing the services that the community needs. And then a third one would be focused more on kind of the fundraising aspect of things. And that's one thing that's kind of where supervisors, that makes it pretty tough for you guys to try to do any fundraising, because that creates a whole lot of conflict of interest for you guys. And so our board members our board members are very supportive of what we do, and they want to see us succeed, but they can't go out and say, hey, why don't you come give money this season for some things because of potential conflicts of interest. And you guys sit on so many boards, it makes it tough to do that.
Well, I know two of the things that Compass Point did was they did like a drug prevention program for schools. Are you guys gonna?
So that was, I believe that was part of the Seven Seas Block Grant with the state. There's a lot of prevention built into that. And so part of it kind of depends on whether or not that's something that we can apply for. The last that I heard was that they may have to offer it to other agencies that already have the block grant to see if any of them have interest before they can basically put it back out for bid for us. So those are some of the things we're trying to figure out. If they have all these little contracts here and there, what were those for? And what are things that we'd be able to do? We do have some therapists and community staff that already are in some schools that help with some of that stuff, but I believe most of that was under the block.
We add employees?
sorry, Ken.
Will you add employees, or will you just try to absorb them?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out, is how many of these clients are going to still need services. You know, we have that number of 700, we don't know how many we're getting substance abuse services versus they have the DUI class and the domestic abuse. We did, hire the person who was doing their domestic abuse program, and we're going to do that. We did that before, and we discontinued it because basically Compass Point had started and we were doing it, and we were competing for people, and it didn't really make it sustainable for either one of us. And so we stopped doing that, and then, they took it over, and so that's something that we're basically going to take back, you know, from them. So we've hired, Gary, who was in charge of that program there, and we're basically working to put that back in place. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, they'll have classes back up and running for that. And so that's one of the things. So we are basically have hired Gary. We've offered a couple other positions for people from Compass Point. We're welcoming them all to apply for positions that we have. And part of it is seeing how many people, so we're tracking how many calls are coming in, asking for, services and things like that, so we can try to get a number on what we're gonna need for staff. So the plan would be to hire additional staff based on what the needs are.
And I think there's some jail services they provided as well.
Yeah, so I think there's, yeah, and then again, I'm not sure what part of, contractor grant that was a part of, and so we're still trying to figure out all those different things and see. I think that was something maybe through the region, and so we're trying to work with the region and try to work with, you know, the IDPH and everybody in MCOs and try to figure out what they were doing and where can we help with those services.
The season's financially
Right now, yeah.
okay?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through the same struggles that a lot of community health center have. I mean, we haven't seen a change in our Medicaid rate in, I think, basically since I've been in season. And so our costs keep going up, and really with low unemployment, it's, you know, people can go and they can kind of work wherever they want and kind of demand wherever they want. So we see our costs for labor going up because we have to pay a sustainable rate, otherwise they're gonna go work in the private sector or wherever. And so those rates go up, and we aren't getting, you know, additional rates for reimbursement. So we've looked to diversify our funding. We've gone after, lots of grants. And we've got some grants, and I mean, the grants are great, but you also have to hire people for specific things in those grants. We can't just use the grant for general funding. And so, but that helps us provide additional services that are needed, but without taking away from our bottom line.
I guess it was kind of my understanding that they were gonna just kick that block grant back out for everybody to reapply for.
Yeah, I know they talked to some attorney or something like that, and so I think they're looking at what their options are. And the last that I heard is they may have to offer it to somebody else first, and if nobody's interested, then they. And then when we first talked to them, they'd asked if we had any current IDPH contracts or grants, and we didn't. And it sounds like if we would have, they may have been able to just transfer it to us. But since we don't, they have to look to see if there's anybody else interested. So, you know, whether it gets put back out or not, we're still going to look to provide services that, you know, wouldn't be the exact same thing that Compass Point did. We would make sure that people are getting treatment services. And that's stuff that we could bill to Medicaid, to insurance and things like that, and so there's funding for those things. The prevention stuff, things like that, that's why they have the block grant, because there's no insurance that pays for you to go out and do preventative stuff. And so that's what the block grant part of that was for. And while CS is very important, and we try to do as much prevention stuff as we can, that's, you know, a big chunk of the block grants for prevention.
So if you were receiving some sort of counseling in Osceola County with Compass Point, if you were to go over to Stevens, where do you go?
So, I mean, they could get services here in Sibley. We have someone who comes to the hospital here in Sibley who's co-occurring, so they can do both therapy and substance abuse. And if that didn't work, then we have that same person in Sheldon as well as other people, so they could get service in the Sheldon office more frequently if it was needed. And I did bring some preliminary numbers for March. In Osceola County, in the month of March, we served 79 unique individuals. For the year so far, so July through March is 181 unique individuals, and we provided a little over 2,000 services, almost 2,100 different services for those individuals since July 1. So I just wanted to give you, and this is information that we give to our board members every month as far as how many people we served in the counties and how many services and where we are year to date. So far, year to date, from July through March, as an agency, we served over 4,800 individuals, unique individuals, providing over 57,000 services in that 9-month period. Any other questions or anything that I can help answer?
How long before you guys kind of have a concrete plan together how you're gonna move forward with this?
Well, I mean, it's, we're hoping we have a meeting tomorrow to iron out some things with the IDAP program. We've been, like I said, we're tracking how many people needed services, and so far, we've been able to get them in, within a couple of weeks. We're trying to determine who are the ones that are, you know, kind of more emergent than others, and getting them in sooner. And so, as far as the contracts and what we can apply for and things like that, unfortunately, we're kind of at the liberty of the state with some of that, because, you know, we're ready to look at those things now, but only if they allow us to look at them and apply for those. So, as far as providing treatment services, and, you know, we have a plan already in place as far as expanded hours and things like that. The next step is to hire additional staff, and so we've had those positions posted. We've talked to some people that have worked at Compass Point, tried to encourage them to apply, because that's what starts our process of doing interviews and things like that. And so we've already been doing that. When this happened, we reached out to the board at Compass Point to offer, you know, if it would help for our HR to come over to Compass Point and be there and on-site and things like that. And I think ultimately they decided not to do that, but, you know, we've been trying to encourage them to apply and let us know anything that we can do to try to help during the transition, so.
Are you gonna absorb these costs with fee-for-service coverage, or?
Yeah, so fee-for-service, will cover, I mean, we're community mental health center, so our rates are a little different than what Compass Point were, just as a standalone substance abuse agency. And so our rates are a little bit higher than what theirs are. And we, you know, everything that we're taking on is fee-for-service, so there's a billing, someplace that we can bill for it. My understanding with the block grant was that's something they could only bill once a month. And we're fee-for-service, as soon as you provide the service and the documentation is done, you can start billing that, so there's not as big of a lag in getting reimbursement for that, so. Any other questions, or? Well, like I said, we have a board meeting on May 10th, and so I'm sure that Ed will have more information at that point to bring that to you guys, but.
And when were you guys hoping to get something back in the way of whether or not we were gonna fund something one way or the other?
I mean, it's not, I mean, we haven't done our budget for next year. That's something I'm working on now, and so, obviously, the sooner the better, so we know and so we can plan, but, you know, it's also, you guys have to, I know you have to follow certain steps to do certain things as well, and so, if we knew, you know, by the end of May, first part of June, that would still allow us time for me to get it in our budget and plan for next year.
So you'd be able to get us some additional information, the timeline, and the services that were gonna be provided. Like if we had you down for, say, May 28th, to bring this topic of discussion back up again for funding.
Yeah, we could, it probably would be, Kim will probably be, you know, I look at the finances and things like that, but Kim has better grasp on, all the services and things like that. She was on her way to DC for one of the grants today, so she couldn't attend, but yes, we can bring whatever information you guys might need, and so maybe that's something on the 10th, our board talks about what information you want to have brought back and presented.
I think we're just kind of looking at what services we're gonna get, and then if we're gonna currently be servicing the people that we're already getting services.
Right. And that's the one thing we're trying to find out too, is what the money you were given from this point, what that was going for. going towards certain services.
General support.
So, I mean, you know, that we could, at that point, I think, be able to say this is the additional services we're taking on from Compass Point to provide services. Maybe we'll get more information on that, and hopefully by that time we'll know more from the state and things like that, so.
So I'll have something to bring to my May 12th meeting.
Just when we make that.
So if I have it with you on the 10th, you'll have something,
Yeah.
more information we can bring back here on the 12th.
Yep.
And maybe on the 28th, we can make our decision with the funding, put it on the agenda to discuss. And then you'll know by the end of May, beginning of June.
That will work for us. All right, anything else for me? All right, thank you guys for your time, and
Thanks, Dan.
you guys do play county one. Thank you very much. Thanks.
See you May 10th.
Sounds good. Have a good day, guys.
Well, Jason, we talked a little bit about that last quarter payment, and they said they just pulled off of that, they figured we'd have enough money to close up the books. Yeah, it wasn't a big deal, but there was several questions on that, they said just hold off.
First you said, yeah, go ahead, and they didn't know. Yeah, hold on.
We have it in claims.
2062, yeah. Our next item.
That guy's name was Dan Reese.
Reese is what I heard.
R-I-E-S.
I was searching.
R-I-E-S.
It looks like I'm on it.
That's
Candy
Reese,
man.
R-I-E-S.
It looks like this guy doesn't.
What we just like to see.
That's right.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yep. My husband said too, and he said, I never drank coffee, so that's been surprised.
I don't know if it's gonna help me anymore.
He might be past that stage.
Never happened, just don't like it.
When I quit smoking, I took a coffee. So which one's worse? Well, I know which one's worse.
You know, here's this resolution, JRJ one, Jason had abstained. Oh, yeah, oh my God. I'm not, oh my gosh.
Trying to drag you back in.
I was over there for a meeting, Friday, but really closed up on Monday, they already had spent their office lights and they're counting up all the chairs.
Yeah.
Closing them up, getting them out. Like, that was quick. I was there Friday afternoon. Very people there when I got there.
Here. Did you forget the duck, or?
What's that?
Did you forget the duck?
It happens. Especially on a boat, you don't have anything to cover it up.
JRJ, resolution, Jason abstained, so he could sign.
I have to share.
Oh, yeah, they're in.
I think I could, because we abstained, and the record would show that, and I just thought, since you voted no.
I got to see that one. I don't know, I need another copy here.
We have 10 o'clock, the next item indicates, deals with the Tyler Avenue, proposed contract documents, and cost improvements. And Mr. Schultz will be addressing us, and we'll take the opportunity to have a public hearing concerning that. Overview of things before we open up the public comments or public hearing, or, is that right? Yep.
Yeah, we had, bids in last Friday, and, numbers are, go in the contractor's bid, goes from low bid to high bid. Lowest responsive bid is Gopperson's bid, concrete. So if you turn the first sheet, it follows Gopperson's back. Third sheet is a block 8.5 by 14. You see a tally on the bottom there. Everybody follow me, I've got the base where it says base bid, so it's alternate. Okay. Alternate number 1 was the 24-foot wide concrete road. Alternate number 2 was the 28-foot concrete road. You can see those, Gopperson's bid provided numbers on those two. If you look on the third one, over Blacktop Services, that's an asphalt company. They provided similar numbers. for alternate number 3 and alternate number 4. Alternate 3 was the 28-foot asphalt, or 24-foot asphalt, and alternate number 4 was the 28-foot asphalt. So we used a comparison, what we did is a differential, alternate differential to compare those numbers. Typically asphalt is a lower number. We discussed that quite a while back about the difference in numbers, that asphalt will be cheaper, but will have probably additional maintenance over the long term. That differential is meant to accommodate for that change, what you will see in the future because of additional expense of maintaining those. So, I guess what we're looking at is Galberson Smith, once you factor in those alternates, is the lowest responsive bid, and really what we need to discuss, I think, at this point, also, besides the lowest, the contractor we awarded this to, is the, which design you want to go with. We bid it, as you know, 24-foot with 6-foot shoulders each side, or 28-foot 4-foot shoulders each side. So those are the two items. Stepping back, the base bid was the material common throughout, whether it's asphalt or concrete, is the material that was used. All the work that was done here, regardless of what kind of concrete or what kind of asphalt, or paving, I should say, concrete or asphalt was used. So that's why you have 4 different bid summaries there. We have got concurrence from DOT just yesterday, last night, to allow us to award it to the lowest responsive bid, which is Galberson Smith.
Have you ever worked with them before?
We have. I think, work-wise, the end product will be good. And just put right out there, we've had, issues with them before, but not with the, material itself, not having a good product. They end up giving a good product. So, and I don't think you, as a county, have had any experience with Galberson Smith. I don't think so.
Name doesn't look familiar.
Yeah.
I have personally, because when I was in consulting, we did a bridge over the West Des Moines River down in Humboldt, and worked with Galberson Smith there.
We've worked with them over the years. Every contractor's got a different personality before they run things. Put it that way.
Yeah.
The state's concurrence would apply to both alternate 1 and alternate 2.
Yes, they don't care. They don't care.
They're the low on both options.
Yeah, you can just see that, right next to him, Cedar Valley was very close. And really, the 3 bids were all very close percentage-wise, but that may be about. This is underneath our estimates, and our estimates have come down over the time. October, we had higher estimates, we just kept coming down, so this is the lower estimate.
What was that October?
I don't remember the October one, but just,
The most recent one was, I think, 1465. Yes, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember what else.
stage here. The, right next to it, alternate 2 number was in 1,580,000. So you can see about 10,000 below on that. The 24-foot wide alternate, that would be alternate 1, is 1,450,000. They're just below that also. And then actually, if you look on the asphalt, they're actually pretty close. They're at the 28-foot, which is the alternate number 4 is 1.3, 1,300,000, and the other one is 1,200,000. So, once you factor in those differential, 117 and 122, they're all very close to where we're at. Really pleased with all 3 lowest numbers are all very good companies.
Actually, I'm very pleased too with the bidding. We actually got really good prices. I think concrete got very competitive. I think we did it right the way we did that alternate. I think it actually brought on some good competition. Part of the reason why I think Galberson Smith and Cedar Valley were the low bidders is their capability. They are bigger contractors. This project was just big enough to attract some more of that competition. Where those bigger out companies that have the capability to bring in like
stringless paving, all that kind of technology, they can do it now, and you can see it in the bid prices too. They, made a big difference. It saved you money, and that's because they tied the projects together and made it one big 2 mile project too.
The Vanderbilt, even Vanderbilt, you know, they use standard ready mix, they don't have a plan, they ready mix it, and they're actually pretty competitive compared to.
They are.
Prices are pretty close.
They are.
What's the back page, the very back page?
Very back page, those are just additional, we had bidders, you look at the top of everything, Galveston Smith, Cedar Valley, Blacktop Services, Vanderbilt, back smaller sheets are just additional bidders to Lawson Rents. So if you wanted to, you could, in theory, you could do like this. You know, we just didn't have a big enough sheet, but my eyes are getting older with the years and stuff.
And they only bid on all the alternate?
Yeah, typically, we only have one, Blacktop Services is the only paver that gave us bids specifically on paving or asphalt paving. Everybody else is just concrete pavers. But we had advertised to, we went out.
How did you go far enough, I'm sorry?
Yeah, no problem. Yep. So we actually had, as far as the concrete people, we had about a 2-to-1 ratio, pavers, concrete pavers versus asphalt. But we also had, I think, 3 or 4 asphalt pavers who took plans, but only one bidder. That's kind of what you send out, if you have 3 plan holders, you'll have 1 bid. That's just a ratio a lot of times. Not surprising. But yeah, that was really on the bottom 3, just about throw a dart, they're all very competitive, it was very good to see. So.
Do you think we lost anything by not doing this in January?
I don't think so.
I don't.
No.
I'll be honest here, I don't.
Tell you the truth, you know, talking
Yeah, pricing.
to Cedar Valley and Galveston during the bidding process, they were looking at a bunch of I-29 work about a month ago, and neither got it. So that left us in the good of them. So, you know, they would have been bidding against that, the price would have been up. They would have said, I'm gonna get something on I-29, I'm gonna get some money. They were both very hungry, so.
So seeing that you had Cedar Valley and Galveston Smith come in both competitive, no, you got really good pricing, specifically on concrete. The only way you could have potentially garnered better pricing is if, what you couldn't really do legally is if you could have somehow tied my asphalt job on the overlay, to this project, if they were tied, that would have been the only way you could have maybe garnered some savings by going asphalt. And I looked into that, and you really couldn't do that, so, because of the way this is funded. So based on the funding mechanism, the way this is being bid, this is actually, for concrete, you got really good bids. You did.
And this has been reviewed, you've done all the individual line items, their numbers add up. Yeah, there was a small error in one of them, but none reflected in the lowest bids.
So we have a recommendation of awarding the low bid to Galveston Smith. It had the state concurrence, which is necessary for the RISE grant portion. From the opening of the public hearing at this point concerning the bids we received, and we'll open up to public comments, have a public hearing concerning the Tyler Avenue proposed contract documents.
When could they start?
I actually talked to them briefly over the phone after we got concurrence there. I just wanted to kind of see what their schedule was. So some key items that I learned. Give me a second.
I'm sorry, Jason, I kind of interrupted.
They're looking at early to mid-July on start date. Plan on about a week or so of prep work and putting down that base material, and then about 2.5 to 3 weeks of paving. About 1.5 to 2 weeks of the mainline paving, and then about 1 to 1.5 weeks of handwork at the intersections and turn lanes and all that. And then about a week for the shouldering and the finish work. So you're looking at about a 6-week project. From start to finish, the impact to it. Yeah.
That is nice to have those in there. If you had a Vanderbilt was low, you'd be longer.
He would be. He'd be a lot longer.
They would all have production. So.
Yeah. I mean, they have a portable plant that they can put out a lot of cubic yards per day. They'll be using maturity sets too for that, so that'll help do with the speed of it. And then stringless paving, they're gonna have a trimmer for both the sub base, so they can have all this rate controlled by GPS. So they have all the capability too, technologically wise, and equipment wise.
So for the public hearing, I would be open to receiving comments concerning both alternate one and alternate two, as they are a little bit on each, and we have been at this point considering 24 and 28 projects. Have we received any written comments?
We have not.
Conduct public comments.
Jason, can I ask a question? You
You have a comment? This is a comment period.
comment, okay. This just calls for the paving project, not the shouldering project. Can you tell me what the shouldering project would cost?
That's all built in.
That's all in here?
It's all part of it, all part
All
of it.
part of it, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's a finished product.
Okay,
Yeah, there's bid items for the shoulder.
okay,
It's just called paving, but yeah, it's all integral to it.
okay, thank you.
Further public comment in the public hearing portion? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and proceed with the consideration of awarding the contract. Comments, gentlemen, thoughts? We've long held the view that, I don't know if this is an accurate number, but 75 to 90% of the roads that people would be utilizing to access this site are 24 feet wide, so.
With the exception of Highway 9.
With the exception of Highway 9, yes, but county roads, I've long thought that 24 would probably be sufficient, but this is quite a good price for
I like the
the added width, but it's also another 142,000 that we haven't identified how we're funding it yet, so. I have some caution there.
I would agree with you, Jason.
Big
Probably
picture.
makes sense to do the bigger one, but it's still more.
For 142, I lean towards the bigger one. That's my personal thoughts.
I'll give you just a statement, big picture, if you're trying to save money, that's the place to save it. Based on the pricing you got, I'll be honest, it's kind of, I'm on the fence. There is some advantages to having the wider pavement. Again, it's how are we willing to fund that? It is another 100, what is it, 30-some, 140,000 a month.
42,000.
Yeah, so that, he gave us a fair price on it, there's an extra steel on that edge too, so it is gonna be a little more robust to trucks. We do have very good shoulders though, it's all gonna be fresh millings, it'll work either way. You got good prices though, so you can be encouraged in that manner that, you're getting good pricing on this, either way.
Did we spend a little more money on the millings and stuff for that reason? I mean, or was it more?
Part of it is I think we got really good pricing on it, that's why we did that. And that's why we wanted to go that route. Plus, you're right, it also added some additional stability on those shoulders.
But it
for
probably cost a little bit more too, though, right?
We got pretty good fair price on it, we didn't really pay a whole lot for that, when you consider big picture. If you wanted to have a decent material there,
I
that would.
understand, but comparatively, had we gone with the different sub-base, it would have been less.
You know, put dirt in there, yeah, but that's not really a good,
Gravel or.
yeah. Well, gravel wasn't that cheap either, so, but yeah.
Yeah, the width is, two things, as far as traffic movement and getting the bigger trucks or actually the, bigger wagons off the side. That's nice about it, but also what it is that it is designed so there's a joint at that outside wheel edge, and that transfers load into the 2-foot panel. It's not just width for truck traffic or, farm traffic, it's actually, the edge is improved, the fact that there's actually another, like Aaron said, a steel arch, page shoulder. So there's two advantages of it, but whether it's worth 10%, you probably have a little longer life out of something with the 28, but is it worth 10%? That's pretty hard to say it is, especially if you're getting kind of, close on your numbers, so.
I know I'll get shot down anyway, but I'd like to see us at 28 foot. do I have to give a name of it to it? Everson Smith?
Everson Smith is the alternate one, or alternate.
Alternate two pitch, yeah, alternate two, which is 28 foot wide.
That's a motion to approve Everson Smith with alternate two.
Yep.
Mike Schulte.
Jason, how will that affect our extra costs, where we got that figured in at that 490, will that change?
That 490 does not reflect alternate two. If we had a plan identified on how this is gonna be paid for, I would be willing to give more thought to alternate two, but not knowing what we're identifying yet to pay for it, I have a hard time going another $142,000. I have an idea, I can get there, but
Do we know what they're actually gonna be assessed yet? The elevator? We do have the numbers come in, not just their minimum.
It's a little more than minimum assessment,
Okay.
but I have to roll back in there.
Okay. I was thinking we might get a little more there than what we anticipated.
probably not.
The minimum assessment was like 11 million, right? I think it was assessed at 12 million or something, yeah.
So $1 million more.
Yeah, then it's, yeah, taking back.
Mayor and Wayne, what are your thoughts? You said you're on the fence.
I mean, again, if it's purely money, obviously you're gonna go with 24 because it's not an unreasonable width of a road, it is not. But in regards to the pricing, you got really good bids, I think. I think you got a decent price on your overall project. They also didn't, mark up that price very much. There's actually more stuff that goes into that 2-foot widening, all that steel that's put in there. They gave you a good price on it, and so. Yeah,
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, and it just, again, the funding is always gonna be the question.
That's paid for too. And I look at it from the standpoint of, it's gonna be here for a very long time.
It is.
And investing in next to it.
If you don't do it now, you're gonna be sorry if you didn't do it later.
Yeah.
It's only now. You're only doing it now, you're not gonna do it in the future. I'll tell you that right now, that's a fact, because it'll cost 3 times as much to do it later. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mind, with that motion hangs out there to go on to the next item, considering Tyler Avenue funding? How,
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
how do we intend to do this? I,
Yeah.
for a long time, wanted to know. And he made the recommendation at budget time that we increase the levy to give us some funds to potentially use internally, and we did not do that. What are some thoughts?
What are our options?
Maybe stuff that you think to do.
Oh, sure, yeah, thank you.
I thought since the beginning, the revenue that is gonna be created by the CFD mill project is gonna be very tight, if not enough, to cover everything. So this situation does not shock me. But I still think it's well worth having supported and something that's gonna benefit us for years to come, so it's absolutely worthwhile. I would hesitate to only borrow funds or identify internal funds with the thought that they will be recaptured from the CFD urban renewal area. They're gonna get replenished slowly, and they will get replenished years down the road, and I'm hesitant to take that approach.
I think it's important that one thing is clarified. I think it's important that the board has a discussion on how they intend to, fund this, you know what I mean? What different mechanisms they're utilizing to fund it. But big picture, these numbers, are accurate, but they're not final numbers either. The reason why I say that is we haven't finished that earthwork and grading job yet. And so, we don't know the end result yet of that project. So there isn't really a lot of contingency built in, to these estimates. So there is a possibility that there is additional funding, additional, costs associated with the work that's being, entertained even today. And the sooner we get out of the woods on the grading job, which hopefully will be in about a month, we're gonna have even a clearer picture of the end result, because this paving job is gonna be very close, because it's more of a lump sum bid, it's a square yard bid, and there's really not a whole lot of unforeseen circumstances that we're gonna encounter, but it won't be less either. It won't be less, so if there is some small minor things, it will only go up a little bit at the end result.
So let's add a number to this then. Let's quit saying there might be more, let's add a number that covers that. Let's consider a final number. If it's less, great. I don't want a number that's going to be more. If you think it needs to be added, now is the time. A long time ago was the time, but I understand that the action is gonna take place and we won't know the final number till then, but we need to account for it now. So I'm fine with accepting that there may be an overrun on the dirt work. What is that number that needs to be added to this? This first page, I projected 540 unaccounted for costs associated with the full project. What does that need to become? If that's not what we wanna use.
Yeah, I did think that through actually a little bit, because I looked at the actual, where we're at on the earthwork grading job, and I would say about $80,000 would be a good contingency if you're trying to be realistic. It'll probably come in less than that, but I would say if you're gonna have a contingency, I'd add $80,000 under that for a contingency. And I'm not saying it's gonna end up at that number, I'm saying that from a contingency standpoint, that's actually reasonable for what we're actually embarking upon here. Yeah, I would think that if you added $80,000 onto that number, you gave yourself enough wiggle room that it shouldn't go over. But the more you take that down, the more likely you could go over.
So we need 600,000 then?
Yeah, a little over 600,000.
Right. 620 is what would be needed in unaccounted for costs, where we would ultimately be short 570. We're looking at about $490,000 short. Yep. The unspent bond proceeds used in the RISE grants to reimburse. That's assuming a 24-foot road. Motion is 28 right now, so that would make it another 142.
This is about $20,000 another fee associated with the, servicing and the debt, things like that. Is that where that number comes in? Gotcha.
You presented a possible funding option using debt service. I'm also not a fan of that, because from the beginning, we identified we just want this project to cover its costs, and it's not. I have a hard time putting a debt service on every piece of land in our county to cover this. Not to mention the debt service being used is not refundable from urban renewal revenues either. Absent other ideas, my thought would be consider an urban renewal amendment to what's called the ethanol urban renewal area. I would be in favor of the level to which the ethanol plant collections were reduced to this year in trying to get to the final bond payoff amount, that we stay at that not see an increase again in what's being captured. Within that area is a portion of the elevator from the mill project and paving Railroad Street. So I think it's absolutely reasonable to see that area support further development for, I'm sorry, the mill, I meant the elevator, CEA, CFD. So we would have dollars being generated from the entity that is most benefiting from this project. I personally would like to see us use internal funds rather than paying interest or rather than going through the whole bonding process. And this would allow us to replenish those funds the fastest and quickest, and we would use out the shortest amount of time.
I go along with the internal.
Would you say,
That I go along with the internal one.
I see. Are you still talking 28-foot road?
That's what I'd like to see, whether we get it or not, I doubt it. Because I'm just thinking of the traffic that's gonna be on that road.
That shouldn't make a whole lot of difference. Could it?
Regarding, say that,
The traffic, whether it's 24 or 28?
well, it does to some extent, because these are all trucks mostly that we're talking about. They're not, cars. But is it functional as 24? Absolutely. I mean, most of the widest roads we got in our county are, well, with the exception of Railroad Street. I mean, I don't know where else, how wide it is up on. But
That's a narrow.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, most of our roads are 24 or 22, 23.
Here, so that 24?
Pierce Avenue.
Pass. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's either 22 or 24, probably 22 actually, maybe even. It might be 24, I don't know what.
Get much more truck traffic, that gets much truck traffic.
It does on the turning in there, absolutely, turning into that truck stop, so. But then you notice too, you see how it's all beat up, those shoulders, on the edges. Now, the good thing we got going on is we do have good material there for our shoulders, which is helpful.
Well, I think probably in the long run, the 28 is better, but it's like you, Jason, it's still gotta get paid for.
Gotta get paid for somewhere, So internally, obviously, I'm sure one side is like secondary roads, but like on the general fund, how much could be potentially borrowed out of the general fund?
The 1030 item specific, when we finish up the other item consideration.
Let's have a closed session.
Yeah, we have a closed session identified for 1030. Is everyone okay with continuing to finalize this discussion before moving on to that item?
Yep.
Thank you.
How much more do you need, guys?
All right. If you look at the handwritten sheet that was provided to the Ladies and Auditor's Office, look at what the ethanol plant UR area would be capable of generating. Yes, we went with a 28-foot road as the motion has stated, we would likely need about, and I think this would be a little reduced because we won't have the bonding costs that are factored in by Maggie. $712,000. Even if we didn't capture what this sheet shows is available, the handwritten one, say even we did 200,000, we replenished it 3.5 years, 3.56 years to replenish the shortfall. That doesn't come without concerns. There's legislation being considered at the state level currently that could drastically change what our levy rates could be or will be. It's nothing concrete, unfortunately, but and again, my interest in that approach would be to not increase what was captured on the ethanol plant in this year. It's capable of producing up to about 350,000. It's capturing 80,000 this year. So we're taking less than a quarter of what it generates. If we didn't want it in there at all, that can be discussed, but I think that area would be reasonable to support a project like this.
I think it'd be better to go to 24, what, cost-wise. Well, it comes to me, I think I'll withdraw my motion.
If the funding approach, is supported, or is it something that we would consider, I am open, that would make me open to considering the 28. But if that's not a route we wanna go, then I can't see getting to the extra cost.
I'm not. Go that route, I agree with you.
Sounds good.
Would you like your motion to remain? Do you understand that motion? We have a motion from Schulte. Does anyone want to support utilizing alternate 2, 28-foot wide bid from Gunderson Smith?
Question for you there. So if we go up to 28 foot, you still have the same amount of shoulder, or can you save money?
Well, we're gonna
It
save,
doesn't make any difference.
we're gonna save some money on the shoulders, because it's by the ton. So, but that's factored into that cost.
It is, okay.
Does that make sense? Yep.
The width of the overall road is the same.
I understand. I'm trying to figure out how to save some money.
Yeah, it's already factored into the bid, because there's less tonnage of millings that are going into that shoulder.
That's figured in.
But in the end, you still have a 36-foot top of pretty good material, and now you have you'd have a 28-foot paved top that's hard surface with that reinforcing on that edge too. So, yeah, there's some benefits to it. Again, at the end of the day, it does come down to cost. The cost is good though, what you got it for, and so it's now or never, because you're never gonna get it any cheaper, is what it comes down to. Is that the right thing to do? This is really, I think, the board's decision on what they feel is best for the county on this. Either way, to me, is a reasonable decision. It's not unreasonable to choose either one. In this case, if it was significantly higher and we didn't have a different situation, I wouldn't be saying that. But based on the bids that you got, it's it's very reasonable to choose either way.
And I think 28 foot would be a better road.
It would be better. It's just, what does the county wanna live with and the residents wanna live with for a level of service? You know what I'm getting at? Right now, it's the cheapest you're ever gonna get it.
Yep.
But you gotta decide is, what's the level of service we wanna provide to Osceola County, traffic in that area? This will increase the level of service of 28-foot wide road, it will. And it will add more reinforcing along that whole joint, so it'll be a beefier road on that edge, it will, so.
We have support for the motion for alternate 2. hear you, but I guess if that's,
I'm just asking, I mean, with, sure, they pick up a half of 142.
we can ask, I don't know that I wanna prolong this process.
I understand,
Find out if
I
they're
understand,
answering.
but I'm just saying, I mean, if it's their road, basically.
To a point.
Yeah, it was driven by them, but it had very much great potential for
Yeah.
the gas station, other little businesses to go along it that are more interested in being on the paved
I'm not trying to
roads.
prolong this or drag this out, I'm just,
Again, not to come across as the person who's always holding things back or delaying, but, you know, again, the contractor said his schedule right now is early to mid-July, so they're not starting for a while yet. If there is a reason that you guys have on making it a more formal decision, it's not like that would, you know, in 2 weeks, that isn't going to, you know, ruin everything, except, you don't think anyways. I mean, it's,
I don't know.
yeah, but you do have to take action.
I don't have a problem with it.
You know, I don't wanna prolong
I'm
things,
not saying,
I'm just saying, yeah.
Because that discussion, even if we decide today that we have a CFE.
I think the 28-foot width is more beneficial to you as a county than to CFP. So if I was in CFPC, I'd say it's not gonna give me much work. It's the fact that additional width is increasing the strength of the driving pavement, which is still 24. You know, there's gonna be a joint there, so typically people won't be driving out in that joint. It's just that because of the mechanics of the design, that extra joint, that 2 foot, increases the integrity of the 24 foot.
And it will reduce shoulder maintenance costs, it will, over the long haul. Because the trucks, when they won't be going out there and driving on that edge as much, so.
Yeah, so if you ask that, I guess, CFP, I doubt it. I mean, maybe it would, but I don't think it'd be much benefit for them.
I disagree with you, but,
Yeah, it might, depending on how they look at it, you know.
I guess I'll support that.
I think that's not a motion. Guess we could seek a motion that would support alternate 2 if we could get buy-in by CFD or a financial contribution from CFD. Otherwise,
Got good ideas, don't they? They don't always work out, you know, they're supposed to.
I guess I like muddy waters.
Yeah.
We do have a motion and support, Schulte and Helmers, for alternate 2 as provided by Patterson Smith. Further discussion? Before I make my final decision, you guys are supportive of the option of utilizing an amendment to the renewal area and identifying that as funding. That is vital to my willingness to consider more. With that understanding, with that motion, any further discussion, gentlemen? All those in favor of alternate 2, signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 3-1 to proceed with all those. I don't see any reason that we can't ask CFD to consider funding or participating
We've
in.
done a lot for them. And I know they're gonna say, well, you do it for other people too, but,
And I think what I'm looking at, 28-footer, is I think it's gonna save secondary road money down the road in the future.
It seriously could happen in that way.
I may be wrong, I don't know, that's just my thoughts.
Well, it will for sure on maintenance, it will,
Yeah.
on the maintenance, the shoulder guaranteed, and I think it is gonna be a more robust, pavement edge too, I know it will be, so.
Mac makes a recommendation to have a call sometime later this week or next week concerning some options. Is there a time or someone willing to on that, or relieve me of that?
Next week.
We could set something up, she just, or, yeah, if we want to call and talk to her later, she's available after 11 this morning, but she's not available as of now, so. If we want to have further discussion, we could come back to that portion of funding later, or contact her and try to set something up.
Okay, yeah, I think we're good. I got a good for Wayne next week. You guys, gentlemen, have anything for Wayne before he leaves?
As long as we get the contracts out of work, so.
There you go. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Then, we will like to come back to further discussion on Tyler Avenue project at 10:30, which is actually 10:43. We will consider the closed session item on our agenda. Wait for all five to be here. They stepped out, I know they stepped out. They're asking before we're moving that too.
Okay. And is that something we need to talk to the CFD about, or you need to talk to them about, or?
You know, my thought would be, it might be good coming from you, but I mean, I'm fine doing that.
I'll talk to Rob.
I think Mike and you might have the best conversation, you know, I don't know,
Well,
you never really asked them for anything, you know,
we can do that.
Just like putting a sidewalk in town.
Okay. I'll have a discussion.
You okay with doing that? I mean, I think it might be better, I can do that, but I don't know if it'll, I think you might have more opportunity for success, actually. I could be wrong, but obviously that's always the goal, right? You know, I mean, it's the goal.
Just like when you put a sidewalk in town, they do a special assessment on your property to pay for it. I don't remember what the length of time is on that.
You know, I've never done a special assessment in a county, and I don't think we ever have, so, cities do it all the time, you know, and so I don't even know the process, it's never been done.
We're spending the extra money to do it right,
Yeah, we are.
And they should appreciate that.
you know, so.
That would be good if that would happen.
And even though Wayne said it benefits us, it's true, it does benefit us to a greater degree, but I still think this is kind of a showcase project with their feed mill. It does benefit them because, I'll be honest,
I disagree with you.
it is gonna have a look to it that is going to improve it too, because seeing that joint line and that 2-foot shoulder, and it is gonna look a little sharper.
Craig would like to talk to you. He was waiting for you to come down to the bathroom.
Oh. I don't drink nothing in the morning.
Made copies of this, or one did not receive that.
Well, we got my email, I guess.
I'm just gonna make 5. I got them already. This is the one you sent out, unless any changes, then any changes, it's the one that you sent out, all of us.
Yeah.
Okay. Printed that out.
Okay, we would be considering the closed session item, is there a motion to enter closed session under Iowa Code 21.51P?
Second?
Mr. Jones offers a motion, Mr. Schulte supports it, Mr. Jones, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Schulte? Aye. Mr. Helmers? Aye. Mr. Moore? And I vote aye, we are in closed session. of the release and severance agreement that was presented and discussed.
I make the motion.
Schultz, support from, Jared Helmers, okay. To approve the release and severance agreement. Further discussion? All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay.
How you doing? Thanks, gentlemen.
Good job.
See you later.
Sure, that we shut this off. I heard that motion. That was no concession. We made a motion past the approval of the release and severance agreement.
That's all I just know. That's all I need.
11 o'clock, we have a community health needs assessment item. Ready to address us on that?
Okay, well, thank you for having me. My name is Ben Davidson, hospital administrator here at Osceola Community Hospital. Every 3 years, at the community hospital, Critical Access Hospital, we're required to perform a community health needs assessment. And so basically, that is we reach out to the community and figure out what are the needs related to health. We focus on transportation, daycare, mental health, in the past. But really wanted to reach out to you to figure out what are your thoughts and what do you see in the community that are needs. And so, what we're doing is doing first a questionnaire, and then I'd like to ask you just 3 general questions about the health of Osceola County. So, if we pass out these, just that it's a 1-page front and back questionnaire. No, if you've already completed it, please. No. So, I don't need these today. However, I can come pick them up anytime. If you want to leave them here in the office, I can come pick those up. But starting with the first question is, again, please speak freely, is what's your vision for a healthy community? What is healthy about our community and what is unhealthy about it?
The unhealthy part is like the volunteers on the ambulances. And I guess I can say that because I think I know we visited about that already.
So with that, and we can talk a little bit more about that. How about other what's good that's happening in your community regarding to health? Wellness,
A new doctor.
and providers.
As far as the vision for healthy community aspect, that has been easy and close access to services.
Any others regarding healthy community? How about wellness? Anything related to wellness?
I probably should, but I don't use it.
Well, the access to wellness, I think,
Yeah.
that's something that we talked about is, we also, this'll roll over to the public health office as well. And so they'll complete their community health needs assessment next year. But we'll share this information with the public health office, and this will be part of the evolving thing that we put into our strategic plan. What do we need to focus on as a community hospital? So, appreciate the feedback.
It strengthens the strong partnership with a bigger network too, having access to more specialized. You're doing a good job of providing more specialized locally too.
perception of the hospital overall and specific programs or services. And you're not gonna hurt my feelings either way.
For a small hospital, I think we do very well.
I do get a lot of feedback that we're not really set up to deliver kids anymore in most of the county either.
Yeah, I have heard that. I think what they're scared of is, okay, if they don't come here with the kids, they're gonna leave here altogether.
Absolutely. Other feedback, positive, negative, either way. Access to clinic, access to specialty services, any additional specialty services.
It's going very reasonable, time-wise.
Yeah, okay, good.
Expanded hours, availability has been good. I don't completely understand the difference between clinic hours and I can't remember what you call them, acute care hours.
They're the
But
same, yeah. Good. Any gaps, I think deliveries is a gap, other gaps that you might see. And again, if something comes to you after this meeting today, feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email, anytime, or stop by my office, it's fine, or I can stop by and meet you anywhere. And then the last question is, what can the hospital do to improve health and the quality of life in the community?
Bring down costs.
I don't know if it fits into any of the questions you had. Childcare is a big issue in this town. You know, I think you're part of the one at the school there, but they're bursting at the seams. It's an issue in this county's town, whatever.
How's that set financially?
So we take a loss every year.
That's one thing you contribute to the quality of life is that just keeping that available and what you do to support the daycare we do have. Yes, I'd love to see it grow, and I know we have additional needs, but if you weren't as committed to it as you were and we lost what we have, it'd be really detrimental. Your commitment remains.
Yeah, with that, yeah, if we have a waiting list. We financially would like to expand, but we just don't have the funds to do that, or else we have to sacrifice other services like the hospital. So, if someone wants to open up another daycare, we would have to support them because we know it's a need, in the community. So, I would ask that you please support that, if anybody else, wants to do that. Other,
Try to make inroads for mental health concerns, but continuing efforts in that, whether it be in-house or just making space available to those that are already. That's a good partnership for that team.
alright. Get any feedback, you can always stop by, let me know, I can meet you. Any other closing comments for community health needs assessment that I can include?
I go to Wellness Center and the new updates is wonderful.
Great thing to have.
experience, have you had any issues with not taking insurers or having issues with insurance providers that maybe don't? Just keeping your finger on the pulse and making sure that you accept and work with those that.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of as far as insurers, we can
I
take
don't
all,
know either, but that would.
yeah, we do take all, insurance carriers. So, yeah. Yep. So, I'm with you on bringing down the cost of care. It's difficult, but I'm with you here, even from our employees, so. Well, thank you for your time.
I really like some of your employees.
Yeah,
make sure you get there.
That's not what he told me.
Yes.
You help her out, so. Think you'll come home in a better mood.
Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Don't send her to work in such a bad mood.
If at any point you wanna have conversations about daycare services, I'd be happy to have that, things that were going on, Mike and I have been talking about the ambulance service, EMS, and how, we could focus on that, so, a lot of things going on, but, again, we're a community hospital, all of the profits, or if there were profits, would stay in the community, so, we don't have any shareholders or alternatives, so, we're here to take care of our community and make sure that people get the best possible care. Yeah.
Thank you. We're on to the next, Andy.
You might want them, you might want to
Oh,
stay,
thank you.
you might want to stay for this one.
Yeah,
You want to say?
You might not want to.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, you don't want interest.
No, go ahead. Well,
We'll go ahead. You sent out an email yesterday concerning the utilization in March of the services. Did you want to address that to some extent, or more just the interested
all of
applicant?
that, probably just the interest of this applicant.
The only other question I have is, could you send him that information too, and just
I sure can, I can put him on
for
our.
the number of calls, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Mhm. So, this would be the second time that Jennifer, oh, okay.
If you don't mind, sorry.
So this will be the second time that this individual has contacted us about joining our service. Single mom, has a couple of kids, and the first time we had said, you have to pay for the course yourself, and then when you pass it, then we will reimburse you. And then there was also in NCC, they have like a PACE tuition grant, and we encouraged them to apply for that. This time, when she came, she said she was not able to get the PACE, assistant program. Then she was wondering if there was any way that the board would, like approve of either partial of the payment, so she could take the course, or, I normally don't do this because we've been burned so badly, and the cost of the course is $1,500. That's just to take the course. That's not the background checks, that's not any of the shots that she has to have.
Did you talk to Melvin? They were talking about actually just paying for it.
Well, they did pay for one, but one that just took it, and, they said that was all they were gonna do when I talked to Melvin.
I thought, did you talk to him just lately, or?
Yeah, it was probably like about a week ago I had asked if they would be, but.
I was under the understanding.
And then they were saying that Graveling construction was gonna sponsor one other person.
That would be my thought, is when we talk to the local Kiwanis or Rotary or, consider, you know, I mean, I don't wanna discourage people, but I really hesitant to open the door of paying in advance when we pay back once they complete it.
Well,
Like,
and then
we need
if
that
it
incentive
gets
to
like
get it.
into the paper that we've done this, and then, you know, then we're gonna get the backwash of, well, how come, you know, you don't do that for us.
Then I have a question there, is on the sheriff's department, we pay for it up front. If they have to sign a contract to be on for, what is it, 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is, then it's paid, well, I don't do the same thing with this. You know, if
What
they
happens if
guarantee,
they didn't pass for the sheriff's office, would you take the
then
whole,
they pay it back.
then they pay it back? Because we've done this, and now we've had people in the offset program that we take their income tax because they could not pass it for it.
But as long as they know it up front, that is
Yeah.
all part of it.
So if we would front the money and they don't complete it or can't complete it or whatever, we would have recourse on getting that back.
Right.
We do? Okay.
We do have them sign that, yes, that is a,
But we didn't when we took 2 of them for paramedics.
well, yeah, you know,
That's when we got
they
hurt
were,
hard.
like, they were actually on our squad, and you think that we should,
Yeah, we got hurt on that.
yeah, and that's just way too much money.
Yeah.
And
That's one thing, if we have something to sign up just like the sheriff's department does, you've got to be
Should
on it.
I talk to, Nolan, I mean, do we have to have it like a legal type document, or can we just?
I'd be open to that, but isn't there a way we can reach out to? If we're reimbursing it, that entity that covered it gets those reimbursements out.
And I think what,
The deal is with, I can't say a whole lot because I kind of know this person, but she just doesn't have the money to pay the, to start.
it doesn't seem like,
And she's a
seems
working,
like she's pretty,
you know,
I mean, I've done a kind of like a preliminary background check, she doesn't have any warrants, she doesn't have any,
I know her.
you know, any history or
But
anything.
no, think that'd be fair, just have them sign a contract, you'll be on for,
And she won't do it because she doesn't have the money to even start paying for it.
Right,
And she's got 3 kids.
yeah.
So,
And I know
That's what we
that
gotta understand.
Melvin has sponsored one person so far, and they have not passed the course yet. So they've already taken the test once, and they failed. So now she's got,
they'll be out of it. If they don't pass it, they're out of that money.
well, they get 3 chances to pass that test with what they paid for. But, yeah, she took the test and then she didn't pass. So I think then she set up to take it again.
You gotta pay that again to take it?
No, but if the 3rd time she fails, then she has to take a whole refresher course again, pay another $150, and then try to do it again. So I know that's why they kind of were hesitant about sponsoring another person, is because the person that they did do, she hasn't passed that course yet. And this one was kind of, I mean, because she works here in Sibley, and
it's not easy.
she went and talked to her, boss, and if she's on call here in Sibley, she would be able to leave, just to answer 911 calls, not to do transfers, but, you know, because those are a little bit longer, that she would be willing, her boss is willing to let her go. So that kind of like, I mean, that's getting both towns, and I mean, it benefits for both of us.
Besides I'm not even gonna vote on this, but besides that, we've thrown $1,500 away.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
And they get a chance.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking too, with your point, the weather agency, I think that necessity is the mother of all invention. And when we're that short on numbers, and we have an interesting candidate, I hate to say that, no, we can't consider it. I'm torn by it, I absolutely want the opportunity.
Because
but I don't
if she does take this course and pass it, and then the first one that's already gone through the course, And then we have another one that, like I said, that the railing construction crew is actually sponsoring. Then there will be 3 new EMTs in house. I think is a huge shot in the arm. I understand that they gotta work out of town during the day, but a huge is be huge for us at night.
I would like to see, let's reach out to some community organizations, seeing if they want to participate in this. In the bigger picture, I wonder if there's not some entity that would do a community foundation grant application to support individuals that want to do this or something.
I don't know, I'd like to see supported.
I don't know, just trying to think of something.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I don't want to point fingers, but I would like to ask it. I mean, is it some sort of?
But I'm wondering if that, yeah, we could do that.
They're bringing you customers. Often.
To be honest, I would like to see the county support it. That's my thought. Because it's for the county.
And you're probably gonna get some people that take it, that take advantage of it, and some people that don't, but
Yeah.
we're so low, I think it's worth the risk. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not sure if I decided to take it, I could pass the test. Sandy, how about you?
I'm not, I mean, I have never taken, the computer portion of the test ever before. Mine was the paper yet. So if you got 25 and you read it and you're going, oh, that's the answer to 5, so then you could go back up and change your answer on 5, so, yeah, I think it would be tough.
But I'd like to see the county support it with the deal that they have to be on for X amount of years, however, however long it is.
She seems like she'd probably stick around, I mean, she's got kids in school and stuff, so, I mean, nice person.
Just make it the same terms as the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
Basically just use that contract to change a few words.
Yeah. Whether it's, I don't know, what is that, 3 years or 5 years or what? Very long. I don't know, but have to do the same with the sheriff's office.
Just don't see it quite being the same, because they become sheriff's employees, and they're a county employee that were then supporting
Or have somebody come
they
and
need
do
a
the
designation. I don't know, yeah.
They're both important.
I don't think the requirement of 3 years is a big deal.
No, I don't either.
If they pass the test.
Yeah, so that's how long
Yeah.
their certificate lasts,
Yeah.
it's 2 years.
Yeah.
And they'll know in 2 years whether they
Yeah.
like it or not, but you just.
But I don't want to see that we pay for it and they quit in 6 months. I don't want to see that either.
I mean, and you really,
Well, but.
they acknowledge that they have a,
How do you get it back if they do? That's my concern.
Well, my thoughts are $1,500 is, it's a drop, maybe I shouldn't think that way, but it's a drop in the bucket. If it costs us $1,500 to take the chance, you take the chance. That's it.
Do you have room in your budget for that?
what, I was thinking,
I am, Sandy,
I am too. I'm thinking we would take care of it.
Probably have one, okay.
Which one?
I mean, the alternative of finding private ambulance may cost us a hell of a lot more.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, if we don't,
I don't think we get the
start
service.
one in Sheldon left now,
Yeah.
so. What are your thoughts?
Would you like a motion on something like that?
No comment?
We do the same thing for our staff, so they can, we pay for their tuition up front and reimburse, or it's forgiven over a certain period of time. We do that with doctors, we do that with nurses, so this is common practice in healthcare, to pay for it up front, and then, but we do, if they don't work their specific period of time, we do ask for that money back. And have ways.
Do you prorate it out, or do you take it?
Yeah, we prorate it out, if it's $1,500, over 3 years, $500 a year, that's how we do it. So.
Here's my thoughts, you guys want to create this. Anybody that goes through the course and passes the test spent their time and their effort to pass it. If they don't last more than 6 months, they put the effort in.
Yeah.
They spent time away from their families to take the class. If it's worth $1,500, it costs us $50. I did it. I spent time away from my family when they were little to take the course. I get very little money for going on a call. Not that I'm complaining, I don't do it anymore, but that's my thought. I've been there and done it. I think we're bringing about $1,500.
I'd make the motion to pay it. Sandy's personal checkbook.
Support that. On an ongoing deal or just this case?
I can see it going for ongoing. Till we get a crew built up again.
You can't do it for one.
No.
I know,
I'd say, I'd look at it real serious for an ongoing.
I just have a hard time supporting it in that open into the situation. We had something written out that we could go on, I would consider that more. And I would like to see us reach out and see if there are others, entities interested in supporting this.
I would love to see us support 20 of them.
So, I understand and I hate being against this, and I don't know that I think it's the appropriate way to move forward at this point. That being said, I'm not gonna belabor that point. Any further discussion, comments?
It's 14, because if it's with this one, I'm going to abstain.
It's for any of them. And I hope we get 20 of them to apply.
All those, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Any further discussion? I shouldn't correct it. Sorry. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
I still do think I should talk to Nolan about writing something about.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, you got it. Don't call 911.
Yeah, she's up here. Workers' comp.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I was looking down.
It was just, I'm not making a ready to try to.
Bob was like, oh my gosh. So was there a stipulation for that?
I would love to see them stay on, but I'm hoping, like Jerry said, with the amount of time that they put into it, that's worth a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So they've already put some of their own sweat equity. I guess, and that's what I would always have said too, if they had to put out some of their money, they would realize how valuable it is to study. But, yeah, it is a tough course.
In a way, I'd like to see a stipulation on it, but no, I don't think so.
All right.
And if we see
40
we're
people
wrong,
sign up, then we'll have to make consider.
and if we see it is a problem, then we can always readdress it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
If we have 40 million EMTs, I'm gonna be happy with it. If we have 40 signed up and we get 2 EMTs, it's a problem.
I might still be happy.
Me too.
All right.
When you're without, you don't know how bad it is.
Yeah.
Melvin's just about without, isn't it, Sandy?
Yeah.
During the day.
And I think that the Melvin Bay City group would probably have supported her, but they're just kind of on hold with that first girl.
There's a little conflict in this.
All right, I'll let her know. Thank you.
You guys want to discuss the Tyler Avenue funding any further, or?
I thought that was good.
Well, somebody's just getting, let's see if we can do it some other way.
I mean, we could call Maggie now, she would probably be available by phone by now, but.
We can.
One, honestly, honestly, one concern I have with that approach, this approach, is that a significant portion of the overall cost is being covered. And our agreement we have with TFE is, once the initial bonding is covered, they are potentially gonna receive a rebate. And here, we're going to other sources to cover what we committed to in a way that will eventually give them more of a rebate than they would have ever gotten had we stuck with just their UR command. I'm not against CFE at all, but that just doesn't, I don't care for that aspect of it, but I just can't see paying the interest that we're talking, that you'd be talking on loans, or leaving our funds set depleted so long. If you go to that handwritten note again, I don't think it's harmful to the ethanol plant from day one. They thought their whole thing was gonna be used for a full 20 years, so we're still within that window. We're using far less than what had been used in the past. These other entities are also participating. We can talk about to what levels, which ones. I mean, I'd be willing to consider only using the CFE portion, CDA portion of that UR area. But that slows and reduces, or slows the payback process to ourselves too.
Just pay more time, interest.
Well, if we do internal loans, then you're stuck with depleted funds for longer too, but if we do internal loans, I personally would like to see secondary roads ending fund balance participate. I don't know that it needs to be fully funded. It did for the Pierce Avenue project, but
right now, they can't afford it for a while.
with our projected budget, we've got to prioritize what's our most important efforts.
But I think that's kind of why some of our roads look the way they look currently, is because of that money being depleted on the secondary roads. Which added to the cost to have them, let them go longer to replace them.
Well, I mean, there's truth to these.
But if we're not adding valuation to our system, it doesn't improve the likelihood of addressing growth needs.
We all gotta get to work.
You know, a small amount of burden on secondary roads won't be the end of the world. If it's, you know, if it's reasonable, I think, you know, but it depends on how much that is too.
How much was that again to redo this, ethanol? But what would it cost to set that up? You know what I was saying, I don't want to say.
Plan amendment?
Yeah.
And then you're doing.
You need to reset.
Yeah, pretty use that.
Maggie's projections are just shy of 10,000.
It'd almost be worth that. I think it would be.
How much possibility is there of that urban renewal for the ethanol and all that, able to fund this additional need? What's the capability?
It's about $250,000 a year.
Per year?
Leaving ethanol capture at what it is set at this year. But then utilizing the other properties in that area to a full extent.
So does that mean that year one, it could be reduced by 250 and the rest would be made up with those other funds, and then
Year one.
theoretically, and then like the other, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I shouldn't interrupt there.
Well, I don't totally understand the, you know, financing aspect, that's why I'm trying to understand, so like could up to like 250 be captured almost immediately?
We wouldn't be looking at capturing any until September of next year.
Okay. So it would need, we need other, funding from, during that gap?
Yeah, be
And
2021.
21, 20 year, yeah, but September 20 would be the first capture that would be potential available to.
Because we would be, as we get to the end of summer, we'll be going through all of our, we'll be approaching the end of our budget, you know what I mean, at the end of our costs, I should say, our hard costs, and so there'll be a period of time then for like a year or so, where we would have to fund that either through a loan or through, internal borrowing, correct? Is that what I'm understanding? And then over time, that would get paid off over so many years, depending on the amount that's captured from it. Yeah.
Any interest in calling Maggie with Spear Financial, or?
How much reserves does the general fund have? I don't know that.
We're gonna take it on two different funds.
2.25 this year would grow a little bit for,
That's what we have right now.
Yeah. And
But it
we're
was, they
we're
just like
projecting,
anything like that.
we're projecting about $1 million. But then it also has some allocation, but yes, I mean, we're projecting about $1 million.
The nice thing.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, if we did an internal loan, we'd still pay ourselves interest. If we did an internal loan, we could pay ourselves some interest on it, couldn't we?
We never have, we can do that.
I don't know the answer to that for sure, but I would be surprised if we did.
Wonder if it would
We would lose.
be any benefit.
Research.
Wonder if it would be any benefit to that, it's our money.
Need to know the question on that.
Oh, I see, I gotcha.
Yeah, just, I can lose interest.
We would, we'd lose that. That's what I was wondering, if we could charge the tip at the tail end or something, to pay ourselves interest.
Paying ourselves.
Yeah.
We never have in the past when we had internal loans, so I don't know, that's something I can check into, because I don't know. And usually we try to have internal loans paid off within that same fiscal year, but this is going to happen.
Oh, so you have to,
Try to have some kind of resolution or talk to the neighbors on that.
It'd be all part of the amendment process and hearing.
I'm leaning towards the internal loan. That's just my thoughts, I don't know what you guys think.
I've long preferred that approach to borrowing and paying interest.
Yeah, that'd be cheapest.
Yeah.
Talked to Maggie yesterday, there is the potential to talk to local banks about funding some of the, or participating in the loan if we went that route. I would maybe like to consider that over going elsewhere, the bond market, but
I just think, just do a local, or internal loan. And if we run, if the county runs short, we just have to rewrite.
you mind if I could give Maggie a call, and I just, rather than me trying to
Yeah.
share with her concerns or things you suggested.
That's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hate to have somebody see that, that shouldn't see.
Michelle, this is Jason with Osceola County, wondered if Maggie is available?
This is Maggie.
Hi Maggie, it's Jason Van Duke with Osceola County. We are still in our board meeting. We voted earlier to proceed to contract on the 28-foot wide road with consideration to utilizing the amendment process with the ethanol plant UR area. We've had some discussion, there's some comments about an interest in using internal funds to fund it with the payback from the ethanol UR area. Are there specific questions or things you would like to get a sense from the board on, rather than me trying to ask the right questions and relay the right information?
Right, no, thank you, I appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. Quick question on the ethanol, plant. Are you hoping to use just the ethanol plant for the repayment of this secondary debt, or hoping to use both CFE and ethanol plant, receipts for the repayment?
Now, that would be specific, you're saying the ethanol plant, or ethanol plan, UR area, with all of the properties that are included, or and the new CFE UR area, right?
Correct, so I mean, really what we're saying is, are you planning, and maybe my first question should have been, how quickly do you want to pay back the secondary, obligation, whether it's internal or external? One of the, the one that we looked at was, that you could pay it back in, maybe 3 to 5 years if you use more of the ethanol dollars, than the $80,000 that would be freeing up, from ethanol bond payments. That makes sense. So, let me start over, and I don't mean to be confusing everyone. You have the opportunity, I think, as Rochelle had, concluded for me in kind of a printout, was that you have the possibility of getting $250,000 of additional TIF asking over and above what you're getting right now out of the properties in that ethanol urban renewal plan. Are you intending to take all $250,000 a year of excess, let's say TIF receipts, and use them to pay down this second loan, debt, whatever it is, sooner than later, or are you not wanting to take all $250,000 a year? The conversation that ensues around that is you're not taking those dollars right now, so those are dollars that are being recognized in your budget and the school district's budget, because those are not dollars, unless there is growth over and above those dollars in the last year, those are amounts that, again, slightly would cut into, we'll say everybody's budget, if you take out the full $250,000.
Personally, I would like to see this new borrowing need covered solely by the ethanol plant area, not mixing it with the current CFE area. Also, I would like the ethanol plant itself to stay at the value that's being captured this year, so they would not see an increase. That's the only one in a different school district than what this plan is and what the rest of the area, the ethanol plant area is. Plus, had the ethanol plant not contributed towards the grow addition project, the grow addition and everything else would have been maxed out for the full 20 years of that TIF anyway in those school districts. Those entities would have never seen the growth for the 20 years. So I don't think we're taking anything from them that likely never would have been there had the process not gone the way it has, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So personally, I would support increasing and capturing more from the areas other than the ethanol plant itself, within the ethanol plant UR area.
Okay. Any other comments, or is that kind of where all of you guys are feeling?
I can agree with that.
Let me give a quick synopsis of what then that does on the CFE. So let's talk about your first step that may kind of help you guys all a little bit with thinking this through. Your first original step for CFE is around the 2017 bond that we issued. Those payments range anywhere from about $215,000 a year to $220,000 a year, even less a little bit towards the end of the loan, down to about $210,000. What that really does for that loan is, remember, in 2019 and in 2020, you cannot capture, there were no TIF receipts to be captured. There will not be TIF receipts until fiscal year 21, based on the value that was just handed down on 1/1/19 for that CFE project. So those first 2 years of 19 and 20, you were going to be taking out inter-fund loans, meaning you're internally loaning yourself the money, and that's approximately $200 and some thousand. Because your first year's payment is $121,000, second payment is $85,000. So adding those together, you're just over $200,000 in internal loans that you will get paid back from the CFE TIF receipt. CFE, from our calculations of a $12 million valuation, rollback at industrial rollback, at the TIF tax rate currently. Now that TIF tax rate could adjust slightly, but we usually don't see it adjust too much. It would produce approximately $243,000 a year in receipts. And I just told you your payment every year is about $220,000 of ethanol. So that's going to produce an extra $23,000 a year, or, approximately $23,000 a year. That money should be collected by the county. So you should collect every dollar you can collect on the CFE project, starting in fiscal year 21. And the reason that you would collect those dollars is because you do have those internal loans to pay back. So not only every year will you make your payment of $220,000, but that's $20,000 to maybe $25,000 a year in excess that you will have to pay back those internal loans. And if you have just over $200,000 and you're paying back, let's say $20,000 a year, it's probably going to take you 8 to 10 years at the most to pay back those internal loans. If the valuation would increase on the CFE project, maybe it'll take a little bit less. Our payments are a little bit less than $220,000 a year, so maybe it's 8 or 9 years, but it's still going to be a while before you can pay that back. By using all ethanol TIF dollars, ethanol urban renewal area TIF dollars, on this secondary borrowing, you give yourself the opportunity to pay back those internal loans a little sooner on that first borrowing. If you were to use some of those CFE dollars for the second borrowing, it's just going to stall, or it's going to push back the amount of time, or the start time that you start to pay yourself back those internal loans, if that makes sense to everybody.
I can't speak for everybody, but I get it. I mean, in a sense, it's kind of a wash, because you've got the additional generation paying excess needs too. Yes, no?
Explain to me the excess generation.
If you're using that approximately 20,000 that you were citing from the CFP area to pay
Right.
back on the new additional borrowing, you would get that done quicker. Well, I guess you're not making the new area available to pay on this interfund loan, are you?
Right.
Okay, right, okay,
Right,
so it
no,
would
the
extend
new-
until that was paid back. before we
Yeah,
start
the new
that.
area, the ethanol urban renewal area would only be able to pay on this new debt, it would not be able to pay on any internal
Yep.
loan. Right. And we also would need to work, I do wanna state this, that if we just use the ethanol, and I'm fine with that, I don't have a problem with that, John Dano, he doesn't have a problem with that as well. We would need to sit down with, Rochelle and identify some of the sunset dates. We believe that the sunset date probably of the ethanol plant itself is expiring the soonest, maybe in the next, 4 years. I think we were saying, from our calculations, probably by about fiscal year, 24. As I understand it, there could be other parts of that urban renewal plan under separate TIF ordinances that maybe expire a little after that, because they were businesses that came after the ethanol plant was, in place. And so we would just wanna make sure that if the debt does go out, if this new debt goes out beyond 2024, that we are making sure that we've got enough dollars, to pay all of that debt back with the dollars that would be available, and that nothing else that is large is sunsetting and we wouldn't have those dollars available. So we would definitely work. I think the question is, that falls maybe back to the auditor and you guys as the supervisors, is internal versus external. In a conversation that Aaron had called us this morning, your engineer, and you may have already discussed this, but there is the conversation of, do you want to add anything to the $490,000 that we proposed? I mean, we think the numbers match up exactly, but if there is any need for contingency, did you want to do the borrowing for 400, 500,000, 550,000, 600,000? That
Well,
is definitely a conversation that you guys need to.
We are proceeding with a 28-foot road versus a 24, so that increases it by 142,000.
Oh, so that's not the 1,428,000. What's the number then?
Well, I can even fill in more. We did have this discussion maybe at the board meeting
Okay.
about the contingency factor too, because of the unfulfilled work that hasn't been accomplished yet. And that was actually, thought through, and so we actually bumped it about 80,000 in the end.
Is everybody on board with that?
On the unaccounted for cost. But again, I also explained too, that doesn't mean we're gonna use it. And obviously, if it's an internal one, it kind of is a null and void point, I think. Unless all this money ends up in the general fund all at the end, because there's that $20,000 from the CFE too, that we're getting extra, capturing extra revenue, that's all general fund, right? It wasn't the ending balance, yeah, it all came from there, and that's where the ending balance goes. And
Yeah, if you're doing the internal loans to the general fund, correct, you can put that one back in the general
I'm
fund.
guessing the ethanol tip too, that's all goes in the general fund ending balance, or how does that work?
Divided up the way it was normally.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, no, that money does not come into the general fund, that would come into the TIF fund, and then it would be paid out of the TIF fund directly to the project. There's no excess cash that's coming in on the ethanol.
Gotcha. Okay.
So let me go back to the start. So the Tyler project funds the need, it's not 1,428,000 anymore. What is that number?
Well,
The road construction project that was approved is $1,570,000,
Okay,
$514.20.
okay. And then we could add another 80,000 to the
Correct.
540,000. So we're, you guys probably have already run the numbers.
You're at about 712.
Yeah, 712.
you know, or something that maybe even a little less, that's 3 to 4 years before, and remember, it's not that you're gonna get it back in 20. You can't start collecting on the ethanol urban renewal until fiscal year 21, because the amount is not, borrowed yet, you don't have the obligation yet, and the next time you ask for TIF receipt is gonna be in December of 19, which is for fiscal year 21. So when we say, you know, 3 to 4 years, it really is another year on top of that, because you can't get any of that money back, to pay this back. So we're talking probably 4 to 5 years that 712 or 700,000 is gonna be tied up out of your general fund.
Can we take it out each year?
I would like to consider taking half out of general fund, half out of secondary roads, ending fund. And you do it from 2 funds?
You can.
You can or can't?
You can, yes, you can. You can take from as many funds as you want. I mean, some of our cities, you know, your county and usually have a little bit more cash. Some of our cities have taken, you know, if they need to do an internal loan of 200,000, they've taken 50 from here and 50 from there and 50 from there that are eligible to have funds drawn out of them. And in your case, in the county, I think general fund, and secondary roads. The question is, do you want to pay your secondary roads funds back? And if the answer is yes, then it is an internal loan. If you're just gonna take the funds out and use them on the project, then that does not become a loan, but that may not be what you're thinking.
I would be thinking a loan, to pay it back.
Okay?
Does
And to
somebody,
be able to collect the TIF dollars, you have to have an obligation, and that obligation, again, has to be either an internal loan, or it is going to be, an external, borrowing, but you have to have an obligation. You can't just say, oh, we think we're gonna do this, and go ask for the money on December 1st. Rochelle has to turn the TIF asking into herself, basically, but to follow the state law, she's got to say, we entered into an obligation per resolution that says, yes, we have transferred this money from the general fund into this project fund, or from the secondary roads fund into this project fund.
So we would transfer the money, we just wouldn't pay it out of the general fund, we would have to transfer it into
No.
CFE?
Yeah, technically you would transfer it into CFE, that is correct. So so I think Aaron said it kind of wash if you don't use it. True statement, in the fact that you should transfer the money per the resolution. It would say that you're transferring the money. You should pay for the project out of the CFE capital improvement fund, however you're paying for that project as you're going right now, wherever those other bond proceeds are. That's where you should transfer the money from general or secondary roads to that fund. If there are leftover funds, let's say there's $60,000 of leftover funds because we added the $80,000, you know, for extra contingency. If there is leftover funds, you could then transfer them back by resolution, indicating that that is part of the repayment of the overall interfund loan. So there's a whole process that says if you transfer out $700,000 out of these 2 funds, and you're gonna pay yourself back, every year when you pay yourself back out of TIF proceeds, you're going to do a resolution that recognizes that you're paying back from the TIF fund to, maybe it's half and half, maybe it's to the general fund, half to the general fund, half to the road use, or the secondary road fund every year. So it's just like if there's left over after the project is done, you would transfer back out of the capital project fund back into either one or both of those funds. It clarifies, because really what you're doing is you're setting up that original obligation in the first resolution, and every resolution thereafter is recognizing the payment that is being made and decreasing the amount of the obligation is still outstanding for your own audited books.
So we can't transfer as they need it, we would have to transfer, let's say, the full $712,000.
Yeah, it is cleaner if you transfer the full amount and then transfer it back. It gets a little more convoluted, I think, from an auditor standpoint, if you transfer as needed.
But we're also going to, I guess, to me, the authorization and the amendment process would identify the full 712. But come December, we'll know better whether that 80,000 contingency we talked about today was needed or not, it very well may be
Right.
$80,000.
I'm not saying that you have to do this resolution right away.
Right, so we may.
I think you get it set up, and in the idea that you're going to do, 700,000 or 712,000, whatever that is. And then that way, if you get down to October, November, and you're like, hey, we're not gonna need 712, we're gonna need 680, whatever that is, then I think you transfer at that time. Then you pass the resolution and do the transfer at that time. You will need to do it by December 1st.
Yeah.
But that's part of kind of the TIF laws as well, is that you really are not supposed to, under the TIF law, you're supposed to create the obligation that says, this is the money that has been borrowed. And so when you do a drawdown, kind of, I think, Rochelle, like you're suggesting, I think that could get a little dicey when looking at the TIF law. Because you're going out and asking for money, well, what if you really haven't even borrowed those funds yet? What if you haven't transferred those funds yet? That's where I think the Department of Management, as well as your auditors, may say, wait a second, you didn't have authorization to go borrow, you didn't have authorization to ask for those TIF funds, because you really hadn't borrowed that money.
So if they start in the middle of July, the roads, so we're thinking September, we're probably gonna have most of the bills that will.
Say August. The reason why I say that, you should plan in August, it might be September, the reason why is, once we get into that paving job, that's when the money's gonna start hitting, so that August payment could get big, and depending how quickly it goes. So we should definitely be talking about this in July and finalizing it by the end of July. When they start going on that paving project, we should be finalizing it at that time. My estimation. That way we're not, how quickly can all this monetary stuff be dealt with so that checks can be cut? Is there, like the internal loan, it should be pretty simple, right? I mean.
It should be very, very simple if you
Yeah.
choose to do an external loan. So that really is up to you guys, and I'm not gonna make that decision for you. If you are more comfortable splitting it between 2 or even 3 sources, we definitely can do that. I don't have a problem with that. I would be concerned about taking it all just from one source, like your general fund. That is a very large amount of money, given if you have any kind of unexpected, situations come up in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years where you may need some of that cash and it is not readily available to you. You will still have just a little bit of legal fees. You won't have any of our fees or anything like that, but you would still have some legal fees from John Danos' office, because you would need to do some urban renewal work, on that ethanol, so we would have to amend the ethanol area, that plan, we would have to amend to include this project. So there would be a small amount of urban renewal work that was necessary. There would also be a small amount of legal fees that John Danos is gonna do to, he's gonna have to draw up all the legal documents, he will draw up the interfund transfer, that kind of stuff. It's very minimal at that, to do all of that, so nothing like, going on and doing a bond issue. Urban renewal work is gonna take about 60 days from the time we say go. Urban renewal work can be done and just sitting there. So it would be my suggestion that you may start the urban renewal work maybe in June, after you kind of have gotten, you're feeling very comfortable, you've looked at the numbers, and get through the urban renewal work by early August. That way then, as soon as the urban renewal work is done, you're ready to do the interfund transfer. So if you do an internal loan, there's not much timing after the urban renewal work. If you go ahead and do an external loan, that timing is probably another 60 days. So again, May to June is probably the time to start thinking about your urban renewal work, no matter which direction, the county heads.
One month, I think. I think is what they mean. I do have a question, because I'm not understanding this whole thing about what's going on in the state legislature with, does this affect me too in my, funding? I'm not aware of what Rochelle was talking about, because also maybe you should understand, like, our ending fund balances are different. I mean, the general fund has $2.5 million, whereas we're at about just under $1 million is our projected ending balance. And we do have one of the biggest departments to operate and manage too, so I don't know what the right decision here is too. And I could potentially see some funding, from the secondary road department. I'm not opposed to that necessarily, but also too, I think the more is taken from secondary road, the quicker quicker we need to replenish that, because there is a liability out there by not having
And
enough to do now.
I'm not an exact expert on what's going on in the House and Senate right now as to this bill. I've heard a lot of things, but I'm hearing a lot of different and conflicting items. What I'm hearing is there would be some limitations, and Rochelle, please jump in, at any time. It would kind of be the same restrictions on cities and counties where they, there was one proposal to restrict what you can levy for and where you can levy for that at. We know a lot of our cities are concerned about, being able to levy benefits outside of their general fund. And so that's one of the concerns, is that there was kind of some talk about that kind of going away, and that you would need to levy for all of that under your general fund, which could put, it could put a strain on that general fund. There also, I believe, is some limitation to growth of your, assessed valuation. There were some growth limits that would be applied to your assessed valuation. So if you are a county that is growing at a pretty healthy rate, and I do think counties grow, if you're growing at a pretty healthy rate, that rate could be limited, and that would then limit, the type of growth you may see in your budget. Now, from a secondary growth fund, I think those funds are not budgeted, but those funds actually flow in from, road use tax, things like that.
Well, no, we collect a levy from the rural basic,
Okay,
levy,
yeah.
and then we have
So
a minimum effort that we have to, yeah.
Right, so there could be some limitations, as I understand it in the bill, and Rochelle, please chime in if you have any other information, but in the bill that, you know, there would be some limitations to growth, which also could stunt how quickly your budget would grow as well.
Well, they're trying to get rid of the levy rate,
Yeah.
so then whatever you are taxing, asking is in 1920, you can only increase it like 2% every year, right? That's correct, right? 2%.
I think, yeah, that's what we've been hearing.
So, you know, if we had.
My understanding is whatever you generated, whatever your gross receipts were, could only grow 2%. Or 0% by the Senate version. I figured out how that works, but.
So see, there's definitely some conflicting information, and again, we've heard like 2 or 3 different versions of what everybody wants now. In my honest opinion, an opinion only, do I think this is gonna happen in the next 10 to 20 days? No. But do I think that it'll make it far enough that it becomes the topic of discussion in January? Absolutely. You know, there are items that they can leave at the legislature that if it has made it far enough out of committee, that it is a topic that gets full attention and doesn't have to be rewritten and reintroduced in the next legislative session. I think there's a lot of pushback that people are saying, wait a second, you don't even know how this would affect everybody, you know.
My concern with that is next year's an election year, so then they get hesitant to push stuff too hard, so I wouldn't be shocked if it rolls through this year, but I hear what you're saying.
But it's a tax cut for you and I in our personal lives. It's a tax cut, and so, well, I would think that it may not roll through this year, but it will definitely roll through next year, because everyone wants a tax cut at election time, you know, things like that. So there's just things, I don't know. I have some different opinions, and I think that it would definitely hurt, but I don't know that there's a lot of numbers. What we're hearing from both ISAC and Iowa League of Cities is there's no numbers to it yet. And my personal opinion is if you are limited on growth, whether it's valuation or budget, somewhere, somehow, something has to make up for that. And so unfortunately, I don't know how that affects other taxation or other, you know, costs.
How are you doing, Rochelle, like the general, because I really don't know the general fund.
Well, we could do 50/50,
I see.
if that would work.
Is how much, because I'm just wondering too, how much do you want? I mean, I think that could work. I'm just saying, you know, big picture here, when you look at your available pots of money, is that the best decision? I don't know. I don't know, because we got 1 million in secondary road, we got 2.5 million in
Well, our
general.
fund balance in 1920 is 1,279,34 that we could use, but that we have.
My fund, you mean?
No, my
Oh, your
general
fund.
basic fund. Yours is 1 million that you projected in 1920,
Yep,
and down to 1 million,
just under 1 million, like
$1,005,000 and $154.
Okay, that's what it is.
And that's if we use all of our expenses,
Yep,
and get all the
exactly.
revenues that we get in, you know,
Correct.
We
a little bit more.
could pay secondary road back first.
If we could get it funded back quickly, that would be critical, because, again, it is a big department, you have 20 people, you got floods from FEMA, you got all this stuff that can happen.
So it's a general fund.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that's what I'm getting, as long as it's timely, it would be a big burden,
5
you know,
years.
or less, you
So,
know.
so
Yeah.
here's
No,
the
5
question
years,
that I
she
posed,
was able
so
to
here's the
get
question
to
that I posed. Is there just, is it really an affliction to just going out and borrowing money and spending money on the borrowing? Because what I'm hearing is nobody really wants to give up their fund balance, because I mean, there are things that come up.
I'm not,
So, I mean,
Years.
let me tell you, interest rates are very low right now, folks. And if it's really just, hey, let's just go out and borrow for 3 or 4 years, then it doesn't take anybody's fund balance. And I wanna remind you that Rochelle may have these monies invested. And so you're already, if you take from those fund balances, unless you do an interfund transfer that has a repayment of interest as well, you could be losing out on interest that's being accumulated in those fund balances. If she's got $1 million of that invested, even in a CD, she could be getting, you know, $15,000, $20,000 a year in interest that you wouldn't be getting because it's now tied up in an internal loan.
Yeah.
Versus paying interest on what you borrow.
Versus paying
You're
interest
gonna
on what you
people
borrow.
pay interest at the rate that you're getting interest, but.
Well, I don't know, we sold taxable 10-year bonds today for 2.84%. Your issuance last year was 2.883% on 20 years, and we sold 10-year bonds today at 2.84, and those are taxable, and a taxable bond is gonna carry a higher interest rate than a tax-exempt. The interesting part of this is we wouldn't need to go out and do a rating, you know, it's too small, we're under $1 million. Your fees would be quite limited to really what you would need to borrow. And, you know, looking at, the issuance, we're talking maybe 4 to 5 years of repayment. So that's gonna even bring a lower interest rate, you know, than a 10-year.
How much do you think we could get the,
Short.
how much do you think we could get the interest rate for?
I think if we did a 4 to 5 year, we would hopefully be right around at 2.5%.
Then if you figure what we make on interest, that wouldn't be much, by keeping our money.
Especially if we were able to keep it to 4 to 5 years. And I think if you're willing to use what you can use at the ethanol plant, we likely to keep that to a 4 to 5 year borrow. 5 years at the most probably.
Yeah. That'd be enough to go.
So I mean, I don't wanna sway anybody, but I do hear some kind of concern from not only Rochelle, but also Aaron, like, well, this is taking away a lot of fund balance. And if things do go awry, in even 2 or 3 years, if you don't have it all paid back, then it is, and Rochelle already paid $200,000 out of the general fund for the first internal loans on the CFE. So really, you'd have 900, you know, you could potentially have 900,000 of fund balance between all your funds tied up in internal loans.
If we could get it for 2.5, that's half of that round.
Can't.
Go that way.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I would like suggestion. Well, have you heard enough from us, or I'd encourage you guys to give her a call and talk with her individually at length. It's helpful, but I'm not committed, I'm not tied to one specific funding approach or one required approach, but.
I think that it's just something that you guys need to really talk about and determine, because it really is, it is an interest rate market, and part of the interest quarter was not good to any of our own personal portfolios. There was a terrific ups and downs in the stock market. But that just means there's a fleet of safety. And that fleet of safety is people leaving the stock market and investing their money in municipal bonds because they're safe. They're fairly certain they're gonna get paid back from you. They're way more certain they're gonna get paid back from you than investing in stocks and getting their principal back. And so by doing that, they are willing to take a lower yield. And so they're like, well, I'm comfortable to take a 2.5% on this 5 or 6 year bond because it just ties up my money. It's also people that are getting closer to retirement. They want to get out of the stock market, which has ups and downs, has hills and valleys, and they want to invest in something that they know their money is going to be there, and there's going to be a little bit of an interest gain on it as well. So I think that the fourth quarter, although it was not good to any of us personally, it helped drive interest rates back down. Now the Federal Reserve has also come out and said, we're not going to raise interest rates in 2019. There's just not enough evidence to say that there needs to be a calendar year 2019 to raise interest rates. And so that kind of has led us to believe that interest rates are going to remain pretty flat throughout this year. I would suggest if you are thinking external borrowing that in May we would get started with your urban renewal so that you could go out and do the borrowing sooner than later just in case interest rates do start to uptick, the economy continues to improve. And at the next, June meeting that the Federal Reserve doesn't change their outlook and say, hey, maybe by December we'll raise rates.
So one thing I get from that right away is that means we should have this on the agenda at all the next couple of board meetings, this item, right?
Well, yeah, so you guys need to make an internal decision about internal borrowing, external borrowing, and kind of the sizing of what that needs to be. And that really can just be at your own accord with the motion, whatever that is. From the standpoint of urban renewal work, we likely need to get one of the supervisors on the phone as well as Rochelle with John Dano, so that at one of your agendas in May, you're starting the urban renewal work. And that is a little bit more labor intensive. Just, John, we can't just say, oh, we're just going to go do this. We need to have actual, a conversation with John so he fully understands what we're doing and get you the proper resolution to act on that May agenda. And again, that's just saying that we still have some time to make some decisions on the borrowing side of it, but we probably want to get started on the urban renewal work a little sooner. We want to get started with that in May.
Gentlemen, where are you falling as far as external borrowing, internal borrowing, blended?
I'd say external. If we can get it for like around the 2.5.
There's one question we never brought up yet, and I know we've been on this a long time, but is there a possibility there's really good borrowing rates just through a local bank too? I don't know.
So that's a really good question. What we're going to do is put it out to everybody, and local banks can bid on it, and on this side, they may want to bid on it. We probably wouldn't just go out to local banks and we can go out to local banks, but typically, local banks aren't in the investment trading world, and so their interest rates may be 3%, which is still a good interest rate, but just not as good as you're going to get in the muni market. But we do open it up, and a lot of times, we would see that, certain bidders, like Bankers Bank, UMB Bank, they may pick up the local bank and say, hey, if we buy this deal, do you want some of it back? Yes, but we definitely will go out and talk to them and offer it up to anybody who wants to throw a bid and an interest rate at it. That's not a problem at all.
Gentlemen?
Is it complicated to go with the blended?
How difficult is the blended become, Maggie?
How difficult is it to blend it and say, meaning you do part as a external borrowing and part as an internal borrowing?
Yeah.
Not difficult at all. If you say, yep, we're willing to say $200,000 or $300,000 from the general fund or for secondary roads, and we're just gonna borrow the rest as an external borrowing, absolutely, that can be done. And maybe maybe you do that as the idea that, you could do the external borrowing borrow this amount, maybe you set a set amount, maybe it's 500,000, maybe it's 600,000. And then whatever is over and above that, kind of when, before we get to December 1st, that's what we'll do the internal transfer on. That's not a problem.
One thing that, and I could be wrong on this, I'm guessing though, if you start reducing that amount noticeably of the borrowing level, the rate on that, you know, payment, that interest rate may go up because respectively. I'm guessing if you give them more, or is that not true?
No, I would say not on a 4 or 5 year borrowing.
Okay,
We were
okay.
reducing it on like a 10 year, maybe, but not maybe on a 4 or 5 year borrowing. I think you're probably saying, well, I will say this, your cost of issuance doesn't really go down. The lower you get, anything under $1 million is probably about the same amount. Now, again, if you go 500 or less, our fee gets a little bit lower. Not much, but there's a few things that we don't have to do. And so, you know, but ours would be just our basic flat fee that's up to the $1 million issuance. I think John, you similarly has the type of fee structure that we do. And so, you know, there's just that. And again, I'm not pushing you one way or another, but I think you've indicated to me today on the phone, there is a little hesitation about an internal borrowing because it's a lot of money. It's $712,000. It's not $100,000 or the $200,000 that we talked about on the first issuance. It's $700,000.
I think so, go like $500,000 and then fund the rest ourselves. Someone do, that's my thought.
One way to do
The
it.
approach. I just, by the time you're doing the cost of issuance and interest, it just.
No, I understand, but still.
Part of me was, I know, that's a big number to lower any fund balance, I don't dismiss that at all, but should something arise, we could always consider some sort of loan at that point too, apart from this process, but. Does that give you a fair enough finger on the pulse, Maggie? We've dragged this out plenty long.
No, that's okay. If it would be okay, I'd like to, at least I think we have the idea that the ethanol plant or the area around the ethanol is what's gonna pay this back. So if it's okay, I'd like to reach out to maybe Jason, Rochelle, or another supervisor you would like me to reach out to, and John Danos, and say, hey, let's schedule a phone call for a week or so from now. That gives you guys a little bit more time to talk about it. John won't need to know immediately how we're gonna do this, external or internal, but he will probably need to know within the next couple of 3 weeks if that's gonna be external or internal, because he's gonna need to write that up in his document, that will go into the urban renewal amendment. But at least we can get the ball rolling at one of your May meetings to keep that process of urban renewal, because again, remember, that's the 60 days that starts it all off, and we can't do anything until we get through that 60-day process. And so we definitely want to keep that rolling for you no matter what.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
I think so.
Okay.
Everybody else?
All right. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you guys very much, and I will then be in touch, and we'll get a phone call going, and let me know if you have any other questions, please.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So is it safe to say we should have it on the agenda for a board meeting right now to, you know, just to make sure it's always in front of us so we don't lose track of this, because it is. Yeah, so we're keeping it in front of us.
Next item, review bids for the 19 seal coat project and award contract.
Has everybody got one of these? I got extra copies if you need them.
What's your red file?
Whoever needs one.
I had up there.
Good.
I think you could have made that print.
Here, this is even bigger. Here, I got a bigger one then.
Good. Gonna say, you wanna borrow that?
I have 1117 now in my office, so. Here we go, sir. You have trouble reading that, you can have this.
I'm okay.
You good, okay. Well, to be quite honest, I think overall, we've had really good success in bidding in general, in no seal economy. I'll be honest, like, this, our, seal coat maintenance project, went really well. We got really good bids. really competitive, the road guy got super competitive on this job. And, yeah, I've been tickled pink, our asphalt job, gone really well this year. Even with oil price going up a little, a little bit too, we got really competitive, and the way we were able to reduce our costs, we're gonna be paying noticeably less than last year on our chip sealing. Noticeably less, like probably by 10%. So it was significant, and that's with probably like a 15% increase in oil price, which is the majority of the cost actually. So we've done really good, and it was right with the way we did it, but it did, going back to that fund balance, part of it is because we were able to put together a very desirable project that was big, that brought interest from the bidders, and made it very competitive. And that's some of the value that we gleaned from those type of things.
Three low bids really were pretty close.
I know they were, and these are all very capable contractors, they know what they're doing, they have the equipment to do the job, so they were probably the best out of them all. Yeah, it was really close. So this is positive, but again, that's why we have a big budget this year, because we're doing a lot of work. This is the form of contract that we send out to all the contractors that Nolan prepared as part of it. So they're gonna, once Nolan fills it all out in completion along with the contract information, this is what I would have the board chair sign. And then and because of the dollar amount, we did have bonding requirements and, insurance requirements too that are on there. So all that's part of, formalizing the contract when we're done.
Interesting. Identifying the road guys a little bit on the project and awarding the contract. I'll make a motion. Motion by Mr. Helmer, support from Mr. Jones. So, the road guy with the low bid of $1,02,789.51. Proceed with contract. Any further discussion? Questions, comments? All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
When will they start on that?
I'm hoping they're actually gonna go early, 'cause I think their schedule's open for like right around, in about a month. So I think June is gonna be the big month of seal coating. So some of my plans right now is to notify the newspaper a little bit, also maybe put up a notice in the paper regarding our activities that are gonna be going on, to kind of just let people know. And we're also gonna be putting up, speed limit signs along with a whole placard letting them know that there's loose rock, fresh oil. We're also investing in our own sweeper, because this is really my long-term goal, is to keep this maintenance activity going, to keep our roads alive. And so we're actually investing in a sweeper to put on our front end loader, and we're gonna be doing all the sweeping, so we can put behind it to do that as well.
Tyler will be done before they start the July work on the other end of that.
This will be done hopefully long before the other projects, realistically. The only thing that could happen is there could be a slight overlap on the HMA paving job, because he's coming in later in June maybe. There could be an overlap there. And some of the payment might get split over 2 fiscal years. I'm trying to hopefully get mostly done this year, because this is when I had it budgeted the most, so there might be some, moving funds over type of thing. And how it executes in real life.
Further there, or move on to claims? Should I call the vote?
I'll get everything together for you.
All those in favor?
Yeah, I remember.
I don't know, I
can remember saying it, but I don't know.
Oh, man. This should have done that.
Get the money back to the video, see where you go.
Maybe we voted twice.
Whatever. Then, can we move on to claims? I will identify that Boston Water Service is claim 2101, 2058, and 2113.
Second.
Motion by DeVore, support from Jones to pay claims 2101, 2058, and discussion?
Stevens or Compass Point? Or Hawkeye Point? No, we have not. No. And they asked me that, yeah, and they asked me that day where to send it to, we haven't gotten it yet. Yeah, that's the first thing they asked me when I called.
2113.
Maybe, we'll see.
All those in favor of those three claims, signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. I abstain. I would identify claim 2062 as the Compass Point fourth quarter funding. I would prefer we not take that claim.
Do you need a motion
There's
to pay that claim?
anybody interested, I'd entertain a motion to pay the remainder of the claims except 2062. If that's the motion you'd like.
I'll make it.
The remainder of the claims less the Compass Point fourth quarter funding, which is claim 2062. Further comments or discussion on the claims, gentlemen? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of those claims, signify with aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Okay, Bruce Drainage Ditch number 9. 43, Jason Bowler.
43 is me. 9 is me. Iowa Care Connections has been trying to address the Compass Point issue to some extent, and now we've recently heard from Hope Haven that they're going to be discontinuing some of the jail diversion services and stuff too, so that's an additional issue there. And then, we alluded to and discussed on that legislation that's being considered, and I would encourage you guys to read the ISAC updates and reach out to our legislators, and I've had some go-arounds with them, or back and forth, and, conceptually, I understand some of it, but I think it's an overreach on local control on a large part. I prepared this spreadsheet from.
Bay County had it, yeah.
Worked out.
She worked the spreadsheet, that's what we would lose, over 4 years of that was if that would happen, we would lose $116,047 out of the general fund, and general supplemental fund, and then $57,436 overall.
Why do they want to change it?
Limit the, rate at which they've seen growth. One thing backlighting had written to me was that some, I got to pull up the email, some business association that supports the legislation identified that county budgets have grown by 163% and average home incomes are 43%. But the point I made to them, and I haven't dug into it, I said they're carving out TIF areas and, mental health, hypers or state pension, partials, and, some of those things. I said, I would want to know how much of those areas that are still protected are contributing towards that growth. It may be uncontrollable costs that are driving a fair amount of this that this legislation won't address. I don't know, speculative, I haven't dug into it that deep, but until they can say that they know this is addressing it, I have real concerns with it. And I decided that we have open meetings for our budget hearings, we have a public hearing concerning the budget they can respond to, and they can protest or appeal the budget. There's transparency and participation opportunities for the public throughout the process. So, kind of indicated they want it more transparent, and that what does this offer in transparency that other ones that this current process doesn't?
Is it healthcare costs as part of that increase too?
My return email included that portion, and we did respond now since then, and, yeah, it's.
So that's a big
It's
jump.
gonna be and I said we've taken steps to try to control those costs and change what we were exposed to, but on the whole, we don't have any say on how much those increase. So,
And onboard costs. Sackett had brought up, he's been talking to some people over in South Dakota about maybe running a bike trail away from Sioux Falls and lakes. That's some serious cost involved in that.
What is it about, push between 4,000 and 500,000 a mile?
1 million with acquisition made, a mile. You can build a mile highway for almost that, but. So, and they wanna change the 2080 agreement that we have with them, and basically what we're gonna do is Jerry and I are supposed to bring a 2080 agreement of how we would like it to look from our end. They're gonna prepare a 2080 agreement from their end, and then we'll hash out differences in the. That's where we're at. They still got one stretch of the bike trail over by Allendorf, they still don't have finished as far as securing the right of way. Elevator. Yep. And that's been going on for quite some time. Yep. They say they're still working on it, but it's still, that's the last piece left, is that chunk there. And then, as we discussed earlier, seasons will be going to a different board format, July or August. And you guys are freed up off Compass Point now.
Well, we got a couple meetings yet, I think, yet to finalize some things, but, we got the asset of the building, we put a $250,000 roof on 2 years ago, a year ago. So we're hoping to just be a wash. Iowa Lakes will take it over, but that's who, we got the money borrowed against. They put the building on, and they all take it over. Somebody thinks it's worth more than that, so, the space. They got 4 or 5 people still on staff, making sure that people that need the help are referred to the right, or letting them know where they can go and what they can do. Like I said, I talked earlier in the room about not paying the 4th quarter, because they said, they think you're gonna have enough money, there's no sense you paying it and then trying to figure out what to do with it a month from now, so. So that'll be done, well, it's done, basically. Yeah, you were the offices are
Empty.
Okay, you rent that, boardroom out to somebody, early childhood.
We had our early childhood meeting over there.
In there?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not good.
Got any updates from your boards, Mike?
Everything's running way too smooth.
We thought that too.
It's kind of nice.
Motion to
If I'm gonna be able to adjourn,
Thank you.
motion from Joe, support from the board. Mike's out of his seat, all those in favor, signify by aye. All opposed, same sign.